You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Dead up perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Deku Enters Welcome to Demon School. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of 616 MCU and Hazzard Overflow on FANFICTIONnet and AO3. Do check and support the authors too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. And now I can finally chase my dream. Supporting you, ba dump, ba dump. Izuku finished up the page, Amory loving every second of it. She finally figured it out. A dream is someone's ambition, right? She asked the boy, who looked in thought. So now she'll beat up anyone on her way to achieve it. It truly was a treat to finally get context for the images she spent hours studying. For purely educational purposes, of course. It didn't hurt that Izuku did the voices as she requested. It was kinda cute, and very informative. Yes, that's why she had him do it. That's one violent way to put it. Yeah, he said nervously. Though it's more of a slice of life genre, chances are there won't be any physical confrontations. The series is mostly about the emotional struggle. From what she gathered from his adorable she means informative ramble, humans often took everything they did very seriously no matter what subject it was, sometimes to an overly exaggerated level. It really was some fascinating insight. Who knew human relationships could get so complicated? Speaking of beating up, I had a question. She tilted her head. Was someone fighting him recently? Given his reputation, it was certainly possible. Last time we used the excuse of me helping your power for Asmodeus and Claw, and it got me thinking, what is your bloodline ability? Oh right, he did seem very curious, and he likely had a few ideas for her. From how he explained his ideas to Clara Valak, it couldn't hurt to indulge him a little. However, I can explain it, but I'd rather you see it for yourself at the right time. If you mutter something wrong, it could affect my combat skill and ambitions. Izuku seemed confused, but he would understand soon. Romanticist required one to have a strong and powerful image of themselves. If she believed otherwise, then she could crumble instantly. It's why she and her papa worked up ways to improve themselves daily on a high pedestal where anything could happen. Some say she may be a bit overly imaginative, but it worked for her. Oh, that's fine. He spoke with a very curious look on her face. Although now that you mention it, what is your ambition? He asked her, causing a smile to grow on Amory's face. She enjoyed talking about her ambitions with her papa. It was a bit of a passing time of theirs. To bring order and peace to Babyl's, before moving on to my father's agency of border patrol. She began. He's strong and powerful. I wish to grow up to be like him, protecting everyone. She saw something sparkle in Izuku's eyes, a sort of wonder and longing. It made her flush a little. Or I could run a bakery. I always thought of making sweets. Amory gave a nervous laugh. What about you? Oh, I never made sweets myself. I tend to just help cook dinner with my mom. He explained, suddenly finding the wall interesting. It must be nice having more than one option for yourself. He said it as if he didn't have a say in the matter for himself. No, I mean, what are your ambitions, or dreams? She asked him. Izuku seemed to lock up at that, looking a little confused, but that spark in his eye seemed to have dimmed. I live my life right now, make sure it doesn't get ruined. He explained, a frown covering her face. Was that really all this guy wanted? Where was the MSTR plan she knew he had? He was smart, and clearly crafty enough to survive among demons for this long. She had to push deeper. No, that's an ideal. What's your dream and ambition? What do you seek to chase out of life? She asked, more pressing as he started shaking. Was she really making him feel in danger? Did he think this was some kind of FR ply? A blush went on her face as he began to speak, staring down on the floor. Well, I had one once. Izuku spoke quietly. There was this person, a hero I saw. A beat of silence. He was so amazing. He saved everyone, hundreds of people with a smile. It was incredible, you know? And he just kept it up, saving people no matter what happened, and I wanted to be like that. Save people with a smile and make them safe and happy. Another beat of silence, before a dripping sound occurred. Looking, she could see water in front of the boy. Was he crying? But I don't have a key. He cut himself off. I don't have magic, and if so I'd just be relying on someone else's power with this stupid ring. He fell onto his knees. I'm just an average nobody who should have been abandoned. Just should have given up and die in a ditch like I was supposed to and... He stopped talking, taking deep breaths. She gathered her thoughts based on what she could gather from his rambling. He was a human. Humans had no magic, so the magicless was just a metaphor, barring his recent ring. He mentioned Qui before cutting himself off. She knew her father explained that recently humans underwent an overhaul of genetic mutation of sorts that went through many names. Mutations, superpowers, meta-ability, and the most recent of all, quirks. After all these years it looked like someone finally got the short end of the stick. A quirkless human, one that was weaker than anyone else on Earth. She could feel a twinge of sympathy, but not empathy. She could feel bad for him, but knew she would never truly understand his plight. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have broken down like that. Izuku muttered quietly. I've been told all my life how useless I am, so it's strong to believe anything else. I'm finally happy for the first time in a long while, and I'm afraid of losing that. I truly don't know what I can do from here. All I do know is that I want to keep smiling without constantly having to avoid dying. He sighed, looking at the clock. I need to really get going, class will start soon. He got up, whipping his face off as he made his way to the door. It seemed like she needed to step in, as the student council president who looked after their fellow students, and a reading partner who supported each other's hobbies. There were sparks of true ambition in him, but they'd been dosed before they could truly burn brightly, and she would see to it that it lit the sky. You know, Amory started, causing Izuku to freeze in place. I heard you don't understand much demon culture due to being from a school enclosed from the rest of the netherworld. That was a lie. They both knew it, but neither would call out the other on it. Demons are very peculiar about ranks, but as you know, those with higher authority have more freedom to do as they please. He turned to her, looking with curious eyes. He may be human, but as long as he was here, he had a rank. Who's to say he couldn't rank up? If a Tet 9, Ket 8, or heck even a Zayn 7, let's just say, decided they wished to be a hero, no one would bat an eye. He continued to stare, a neutral expression on his face, but something sparked under those eyes of his, something that made her feel warm. That's simply how our kind works. Prove yourself with achievements and rank up, then do whatever ambitions you wish to achieve with them. And with that, she waited, to see if her actions would finally ignite that tiny and worn-down spark of ambition. Izuku was quiet, looking at her with something she couldn't quite put her finger on. He then let out a bright and shining smile that almost blinded her, tears in the corners of his eyes. Thank you, Amory-san, he shouted with absolute joy as he ran out of the room. She could feel her heart beating 15 times in a second, and could hear steam coming out of her ears. Was he sure it wasn't magic? Because she kept getting this feeling around him. Play with me, Valak shouted, jumping up and down in her seat like sugar-crazed as usual. I told you, I'm doing work between classes so I can be free to train when I get home. I refuse to indulge your silly fantasies, he retorted. Here's a thought. Why don't you play with Midoriya? He didn't feel sorry. The boy seemed to enjoy the insanity the girl brought forth, the psycho he is. He's busy talking with Lady Red Hair. She pouted. Ah yes, the fabled meetings. He was still suspicious of them, but there didn't seem like a reason to actively investigate. Also, there was no shame in admitting it's dangerous to antagonize Amory Azazel. What truly infuriated him at the moment was the idea of Izuku making the student council president his friend. What was with this madman and gathering powerful allies and not making them servants? Then why don't you climb Mountain Sabnok? The one good thing about the delinquent is that he drew away the girl's attention with his size. I'm not allowed to climb to the peak of Mountain Sabro during handstands and pull-ups. That caused him to blink. Sure enough, the demon was doing pull-ups, writing on his paper every time he got up. There was a strange admiration for someone who could multitask like that. Of course, he'd stab someone before admitting it out loud. You could also do your work. What am I saying? You never do your work, he muttered. How rude, I already have it completed. Valak complained, showing off her paper to him. After a quick scan, it was revealed most of the answers were wrong. Of course, complete, an excellent example of strong work. Asmodeus muttered sarcastically. He was interrupted by the sound of fast footsteps running towards their direction, students turning in confusion. It was usually Valak running to the class, but she was already in here. Apparently it was Midoriya, who nearly broke open the classroom door from how strong he slammed it open. Breathe. Asmodeus. He got out, still breathing heavily, but had an odd, determined look in his eyes. How do I rank up? He asked, everyone blinking in confusion, and for good reason. Where did that of all things come from? He never showed an interest before, why now all of a sudden? My humble self thought you were fine where you stood as an Aleph one, Garp asked. Was it just a delayed reaction or some other form of emotion? The hairy student had a point. While Izuku expressed light frustration at being Aleph one. He's never heard him say anything about moving up even once. In fact, his notes suggested he was more focused on helping others rank up. Once again, another piece to this never-ending puzzle. No, at least not that way. Earlier I was talking with Amory-san. You scum, shouted Kami, and it wasn't weird that everyone ignored that. What was actually weird was Valak shook her head in agreement. Wasn't she all for expanding that friendship circle or something? And I realized there's something I can do if I get a high enough rank. He turned back to Asmodeus. So please, tell me how to rank up. The boy asked with pleading eyes. He was curious what this something was, but it could wait until after the explanation he guessed. Well, the only way to rank up are promotion exams. They happen periodically within the school year. Asmodeus explained. Alisar stepped up from there. There are 5 events in all for the freshmen. Their execution Cannonball, the division party, the first term final exams, the harvest festival, and the music festival. He spoke of experience, and Midoriya nodded in understanding. All right, now I just need to prepare. Midoriya then blinked in confusion. What's execution Cannonball? He asked, causing everyone to flinch. Dude, I know you were sheltered, but you never heard of execution Cannonball? Andro asked with concern. Oh, we have a court under the room. Why don't we take him down and play a practice round for fun? Shax spoke out. Oh, fun, fun, fun. The Valak girl prattled on, dragging Midoriya and himself against their wills his will. Midoriya just went along with it like always. They went beyond the trash dump that was near their classroom, a truly disgusting feature, as they went deeper and deeper underground. As they walked down the rocky steps, he noticed something. What happened to your excitement? You're not shaking at all. Asmodeus spoke at Midoriya's general area. He's actually been shaking less and less as the days went on. Maybe there was some inkling of sanity reeling him back. Oh, I've kinda been here long enough to notice that names don't exactly mean what they entail. I'm honestly just expecting something casual at this point. Ah, he expected a lack of danger. So sanity still didn't find the green-haired boy. Joy. They made their way to a wide open area, 2 squares connected by a line. Now then, originally, Execution Cannonball was created as a means for demons to assert DMNCE over their territories. Asmodeus started to explain, now gathering a small crowd around him. Right, always comes back to DMNCE. Midoriya muttered, looking with rapt attention, Clara bouncing up and down for what was to come. Even the Demon King himself used to play, back before the rules were overhauled. Sabnok spoke up as they turned to him instead. Originally, the game was played with living weapons called caimans. They are giant steel orbs that bite down into whatever they hit until they rip off thine flesh, and the winner was declared once thou attacked every enemy unconscious in the castle. Midoriya was back to shaking with his usual excitement, and it looked like the history lesson sparked that little adrenaline rush inside of him. But the rules have changed, right? So it's not as horrifying or bloody, he stuttered, the annoying habit he unwillingly caught. Yes, now instead of caimans we use this ball. Asmodeus held out the green striped ball with the purple mark of Babbles on it. And instead of castles we use that field over there. Once you're hit with a ball you move outside, but once you hit a player you can come back in. It lasts until only one side remains. That seems super fun, Clara shouts happily. Come on Izuku-kins, move to one side so we can, Izuku-kins. Asmodeus followed her line of sight and saw him looking at the field with a blank expression and a completely still body. Trust me when I say this. Midoriya started. I am filled with immense curiosity and disappointment, and not for the reasons you think. And with that, he let out a sigh and began to walk to one of the sides. What was that about? He took his own side, with Gomen staying out as the rule keeper. Ready, settle, begin, he shouted. Sabnok took the initiative, throwing the ball with enough force to whiz past Midoriya's head and form a large crater in the wall ahead. After breaking through 3 pillars, Midoriya began shaking, which intensified as he began taking a look behind him. Smiling in the face of danger once again, that truly seemed to be the only consistency with this kid. You want me to train you? Sullivan was prepared for many things that day, mainly Izuku asking for exclusive coverage of that sports festival when it finally happened in the human world. But his grandson coming home to ask him for help playing Execution Cannonball was not one of them. Then again, even with a millennia under his belt, he should have expected something unexpected to hit him at some point. I learned that if I get a good enough rank, regardless of being magical or not, human or not, quirkless or not, I get to be a hero. Izuku spoke with determination. But I'm so far behind everyone in terms of power and skill, I need to better myself. Please, train me, Grandpa, he shouted, lowering into a bow. Sullivan raised his hands in mock surrender. Now, no need to pull my coattails. If you really want help training, I'll do my best to ensure you become strong enough to get a great rank, he assured the boy. Thank you, Grandpa, Izuku shouted with a bright smile and sparkling eyes. He stared at the face for a solid 3 seconds. Grandpa, are you okay? Yes, I'm just saving your precious face into my memory folder, Sullivan assured, causing the boy to blink in bafflement. Now then, take. He reached into his coat, looking for the object in question. Pocket dimensions were a great and handy thing, but he rarely cleaned them, causing everything to clutter. Ah, there we go. He pulled out a ball. Now then, hold this and throw it at the rock over there. Got it. Izuku gripped the ball tight, moving his body into a position that didn't give any opponents much surface area, yet at the same time didn't restrict movement or power. Intriguingly, for someone who asked for training, he seemed to be very good at it, almost as if he's played it. Oh, don't forget, before you throw it, you should say Libera as you let go of the ball. Izuku looked confused, but nodded. Understood. He reeled his arm back, threw it forward, and shouted, Libera. The ring sparked its glorious rainbow as he could feel a minor tingle. Such a cute thing trying to steal his abilities. The energy exploded into a rainbow-colored dragon, gripping down onto the ball as it flew through the boulder, flying into the forest and causing tree after tree to rip from the ground, eventually flying off into the sky as it vanished. Marvelous work, he shouted, unnoticing Izuku's pale expression. With that you'll be sure to dominate the competition. Grandpa. That wasn't the overly grateful tone he was expecting. Really, thank you for helping me with magic, but I don't think I should be using it during the exams. Cute, that humbleness could be so adorable. He wonders why no other human he's encountered was like this. Pish posh, everyone's going to be using magic during the exam, and they aren't exactly going to be holding back. With this, you're just going to be on the same playing field. I mean, the main reason is because I'm pretty sure someone would lose a limb, and that would just end up horrible. Come now, back in his days meteors only gave demons minor concussions. Has the quality of demon kind downgraded so seriously? Also, I might use it later, the boy muttered, looking down at his hand. But for the first event, something where everyone is the closest to human they'll ever be. If I just use a ring, it'll be a crutch. I'll be relying on something that isn't mine if I want to become a hero, if I want to prove myself worthy of living among everyone else. I want to do it by my own merit, by my own strength. Sullivan was truly stunned for many reasons. Once again, it seems there was always a level of humility that Izuku could reach, levels further than he ever expected, but that paled in comparison for the sadness he felt for his grandson at what he said. The perks of also adopting his mother were quite beneficial. He now always had someone to talk to whenever he wanted to take a day off from being chair demon, which was half the time whether or not there was someone to talk to. And in doing so, Sullivan had been able to learn so many stories about Izuku's childhood, many of which he would bring up with his friends later, but also stories of not-so-pleasant times, stories that made him quite murderous, shall we say. Fine then, but let me do this at least. He gently grasped Izuku's hands, bathing them in a warm light. I've strengthened your hands just a bit, enough that you'll be able to catch the ball without them being too damaged, but it'll hurt if there's too much force. It's both my way of supporting your longing to give it your all, and to prevent your mother's longing to murder both of us if you came back severely injured. Does she know about? Trust me when I say me and Opera are doing our best to make sure she never actually learns of any daily dangers you face, besides the ones you tell her about. He assured the boy, who nodded. Now, since magic is off the table for you, the only thing we can really do about it is learn the game itself. It's pretty similar to dodgeball back in the human world, he gave out. Except it was made purely for fun and not deadly reasons. His body fell into a slump. The only problem is that I still SCK at it no matter which version we play. I've never learned how to dodge anything. Mostly because they thought the quirkless kid would make great target practice. Ah right, the bullying. As soon as that school's term ended, and no one was in the building, kabloom. He already had permission from a certain contact in the world anyway. But if it was physical training he needed, Opera is the perfect candidate then. He mainly uses reinforcement magic, so he knows how to do things on a basic level. Izuku then let out another brilliant smile. Thank you, Grandpa, he shouted happily. I promise I won't let you down. Ah, another picture to add to the mental vault. Clara watched as Izuku-kin screamed for his life. Opera was a super good cannonball player. They threw ball with enough strength to whistle and destroy rocks. Come on Izuku-kins, you can do it, she cheered him on. You can catch them. Clara, the point here was for me to learn how to avoid them. Izuku fell to the ground as the ball were pelted on his back. She's been having so much fun playing with him for the past few days, especially since it gave Izuku-kins no time to be with Lady Red Hair. You heard your friend, Izuku-san, please start avoiding these faster. I'm about to speed up the process soon. The butler spoke in their deadpan tone as they lazily threw ball faster than the eye could see at Izuku-kins. This can go faster? The boy muttered in his excited voice, wobbly and shaky. Why couldn't she get a turn in? No fair. So this is the power of Sullivan's butler. Az muttered from his spot, watching the two go at it. All that power, and he still ended up as Midoriya's familiar. He really can't help but surround himself among the strongest. Maybe that's the purpose of having friends. If that's the case, why not just call them really strong allies? Haha, you're starting to talk funny like Izuku-kins, as, she spoke up. You really want to be his friend, don't you? A minute, I already caught his stuttering. I do not need another habit. He spoke with a glare. And no, I do not wish to be a friend. There's no point in being one. It's just an ally with extra steps. Why would someone need to form a bond that's so deep? Izuku-kins is always there for me, and I never have to ask him. I do the same for him. He helps me with my bloodline and I get stronger. So now I'm helping him so he gets stronger, she cheered. And we make each other happy, and we can always have fun when we want to. And since we're so alike, that's all the time. We're always giving something, so there's no need to get something. Az looked in thought, about to say something but interrupted. Oh, hello there. The two demons turned to see a very large woman with long dark green hair in the shape of a ponytail. You must be Izuku's friends. She saw Az twitch, but said nothing. Hello there, whale lady. Clara spoke without thinking with a wave. In return, one of the ball was thrown at her with enough force that she began to bleed. Wow, she finally got a turn. But they forgot to warn her. How was she supposed to catch a ball if they never said anything? Oh, I'm sorry about that, Miss Valak. My arms must have slipped. Opera did that weird in-betweeny voice they did, though they seemed mad at something. Guess they were getting tired from all that throwing. I'll continue, but there might be a few more accidents. Opera, you can't just hit people because of comments, the whale lady shouted at the cannonball player. Apologize. Yes, Mrs. Midoriya. Opera spoke, causing the other two to have their eyes widen before turning to the women in question. She wasn't a whale lady, she was Izuku-kin's mommy. She had to thank this woman for doing that raptor bug thing her mommy told her about for Izuku-kin's. Uo, your Midoriya. Hello, I'm Clara. I'm Izuku-kin's best friend in the whole world. We just love playing together for hours and hours and going kablam all the time while we're racing. It's just so much fun. Thank you for making him. I'm glad I'm never alone anymore. MangaMuse stood there, looking at the two with wide eyes before her tears started to flood. Wow, another waterfall. That was fun. I'm so glad my little Izuku made such great friends. Thank you for being there for him, she shouted. Well, at least we can confirm genetics. The crying is definitely part of it. Az spoke while holding up an umbrella. Ever since Izuku kept crying and Saburo Mountain used a bucket on him, he just carried it around. It was weird how often it came in handy. I'm not certain if I can call myself his friend, but being around your son has been an enlightening experience. Oh, you must be that Asmodeus boy Izuku is always talking about. He's mentioned quite a few things about you. MangaMuse got really close to him, her face slightly getting less smiley. Including how you attacked him on the first day. Huh, did cute people usually get this scary? Ma'am, Az started to do his best Izuku-kin's impression. Pretty spot on. I can assure you that we've cleared everything on that day, so there's no need. And how you've called him out in front of everyone over a simple speech of all things. Her face started to frown. That felt wrong. She made Izuku-kin's face. Izuku-kin's face shouldn't be frowning. And how Izuku had to stop you from nearly hospitalizing an innocent girl. Ma'am, if there's anything I can do. Az's body suddenly got super stiff. His body was slightly lifted off the ground. MangaMuse was really strong. It's nice to know you two have become so close over the past few weeks. She didn't like this. Mommies should never be this scary. And that you'll never, ever, have a fight or argument like this again, right? Az just nodded really fast, looking desperate to run away. MangaMuse was terrifying, and when someone she cared about was angry, she would make sure Izuku-kin's never got hurt. She idly wondered if Izuku-kin's got some of that protective anger. Nah, he was harmless. Now then, I made snacks. MangaMuse brought a whole tray of yummy food, letting a gasping Az go with a thud. I would have made Izuku's favorite for lunch, but when I heard that the wonderful Clara was coming over, I had to give myself some time. She grabbed her hands, showing no signs of that scary phase. Did she just go through an evil cycle and vent it all on Az? Thank you for being there for him. He's the happiest I've ever seen him in a long time. Would it be too much for me to ask for you to keep being there for him? Of course not, MangaMuse. I promise I'll be there for Izuku-kin's whenever, and we can play games and have fun, she shouted with glee. Now then, let's go for 20% of my full speed. She heard Apriko speak up, along with more wheezing of ball. Izuku's screams went along wonderfully with her kraken takoyaki. Midoriya-sama, Az walked up, hiding behind her. Az thought that would hide him from MangaMuse. Mommies always find out where you are. If it isn't too much trouble, would you be able to answer why Midor Izuku? Yeah, calling people by the same name was confusing. It's why they just stick to first names, to avoid that situation. Is always training. He avoids flying and just walks to school. He reads and reads even though he probably knows enough. And the sheer endurance training his scars showed off needed to treat burns as if they were nothing. That last one caused Az to flinch, likely in fear of what MangaMuse would do, but her eyes just went very wide. What type of scars? She asked slowly, almost scared of an answer. Izuku-kin's had scars. She never saw them. They appeared to be combustion-based, almost as if he was constantly involved in explosions. A failed experiment of some kind he kept trying to get right. Bakugou. MangaMuse's eyes looked empty for a minute, then tearful, then full of hate as she gripped the ground, before turning away. I shouldn't be the one who tells you the story. Just know there's a reason why we live with Papa now, and why Clara is my baby's first friend. Az looked very curious, but didn't say anything else. There was something weird. He wasn't scared. He looked like she did whenever one of her toys hurt Izuku-kin's badly. This needed a cheer-up. She should sing them a song. Izuku was an idiot. There were no quirks here, no matter if you couldn't pull off incredible feats on the daily with superpowers. There was magic, learnable magic, and a ranking system that was based on sheer achievements in terms of ability and academics. He could get something high enough for his dream, his ambition. He just needed to dodge. It was easier to predict. Opera didn't have many tells. But there were the ears on their head that showed off emotion, and their index finger itches whenever they were about to throw a curvy ball. But he couldn't just rely on tells, each opponent would have a different one. He needed to see how they threw, how the ball moved in the air. To avoid getting hit in the head, the hand was fine. He could catch it with his hand. Left, right, up, left, down, right, right. Every move needed to be faster than the last. But dodging wasn't enough. The last ball thrown, he needed to catch that one specifically, when Opera wouldn't be able to counterattack. 18 ball. Come on, you're known as a danger junkie for a reason. You've been tanking attacks even before grade school. Whenever someone attacked him, he's never had anything in the way of defense, so the only thing he could do was take it. He's written many notes about these kinds of situations. Heck, in fact, in the right circumstances, he could even counter one and really, only one, which was impressive for him in any case of Kachon's attacks. Kachon isn't here though, it's you, against a scary cat demon that's also your butler and familiar. Man, my life has really jumped. The shark. Opera was throwing a ball that would definitely hit him, which meant there was only one option. Plant my feet and clench my butt cheeks, he mentally commanded his body as the ball came closer and closer. Hold out my hands. The next thing Izuku knew, he was laying on the ground, with Opera and Clara staring down at him. Izuku-kin, you're awake. I don't need the wake-up mallet now. She held out an oversized hammer he hoped was made out of RBB. I failed, didn't I? He grumbled. Figures the quirkless kid can't even do that much. I should have expected. He was bopped on the head with the mallet. What the? He now saw Opera-san holding the mallet. It wasn't made out of RBB. Joy. If you'd use that analytical mind of yours on yourself for a few seconds, you'd truly be a force to be reckoned with. Opera-san pointed to his chest. Look at what you have in your hands. My hands. His arms were tucked inwardly on his chest, almost as if he were. I caught it. Opera nodded a little. They never changed their expression for anything, but he noticed a slight twitching in the horn-ears. He should probably ask them what they actually were. I was afraid this would have taken longer, but it seems you've already had the most vital lesson down. When faced with a scary situation, turn that fear into excitement. I caught it. Izuku said the words again, almost testing them to see if they sounded real. I caught it. He let out a wide smile. I caught the ball, he shouted loudly. Go go, Izuku-kins, Clara shouted loudly. Now it's my turn. I'll get my super kicker ball launcher and you try to catch them all. She brought out the equivalent of a Gatling gun for soccer ball out of her pockets. She was getting more imaginative with her magic, he had to admit. If only it wasn't actively contributing to his death. I think we've had enough training already for the moment. He calmed her down. All that racing he's done with her has actually helped in the dodging department, though he doubted he'd ever keep up with her. What about you, Asmodeus-san? Are you? Asmodeus had been weirdly quiet for a while, almost like he avoided saying anything. Asmodeus-san? Midoriya, now that you're finally free, I have a question to ask. Asmodeus started. The curious look he's had ever since their first meeting seemed as strong as it was then. What exactly is your ambition? Oh right, he hasn't told them. Well, it's not like they were gonna knock him down and say you can't do it. They're friends, he hoped. I want to be a hero. That's it? Asmodeus asked, looking even more confused, and maybe even a bit PSS off. You've started a riot on the first day, befriended lunatics, and nearly got yourself killed on multiple occasions, all for the sake of being a famous hero. You really are just an adrenaline high glory hound. Izuku blinked in confusion. The way that was worded, I don't have to be famous or worry about myself, I just want to be a hero that saves people. That's even more confusing, Asmodeus yelled, enraged by this point. What's the point of all this altruism if you get nothing in return? No, what's the point of it all if you just end up hurting yourself? It's clear that you try to avoid causing a ruckus, but every time something pops up, you throw yourself out there like it's nothing. Because people keep getting in danger. Izuku frowned, now feeling something he hadn't felt in a long while, frustrated. I'd never be able to live with myself if I knew I could have helped someone survive or get better with my help, and didn't. But why? You could rule the school so easily with everything you achieved so far. Why waste your life for someone else? It's better my life than someone else's, he yelled back, truly angry with some for the first time since he's arrived in this world. It almost felt like he was yelling at Kachon for a minute here. Do you know what it's like for everyone around you to constantly keep telling you that your life has no meaning? That there's nothing you can do to make it matter? That you'll never be anything more than a powerless Deku that'll only get in the way of everyone else? If I can help at least just one person, or even just put a simple smile on their face, then I'll know that I matter to someone, that I helped make someone else's life just a little bit better. Izuku breathed heavily, finishing his rant, feeling years of stress released. His eyes were clearer now, seeing the shocked face of Asmodeus, and Clara's eyes looking watery. SHT, he let out too much. I'm going to rest now. He needed to get out of here. He couldn't deal with the confrontation. He needed to leave. You matter to me, he heard Clara say. You matter a lot, Izuku-kins. Izuku felt more tears well up inside of his body. He couldn't cry here though. Thank you, Clara. And with that he left them. Tomorrow was the day after all. He needed to be 100% ready for the execution cannonball. Ranking up was the only path he had to become a hero, and he would run down it with all his might. Caligo watched as the misfits, the secondary bane of his existence, lined up in a row as they chatted. The fact they could line up at all was a miracle, so he gave them a solid 5 seconds of talk time before he spoke again. Silence. They immediately quieted down, after which Caligo began to speak once again. Now then, we'll go over the rules. And thus came a part of his job he despised violently, summoning that little nuisance of a screen that made his headache grow with every syllable. Time for a super easy execution cannonball explanation. The annoyance spoke, as Caligo's urge to murder jumped tenfold. 1. Each team should have one person outside of the field. 2. Everyone else will be within the field. 3. Those hit by the ball must exit the field. You can continue to attack from the outside. But please note, even if you hit someone, you cannot return to the field. Hurry up, let me blast you to bits. 4. You may only use magic on the ball. You may not attack your opponent with magic directly. Okay, let's all play Oh. It shouted in pain as he threw it onto the field, which must have been a new feature to try and gain sympathy. Jokes on it, he reveled in its agonized screams. That basically sums it up. He sure does hate the thing. Obviously, he'd torture whoever made these things if he knew where they were. We're not even being watched down here. Why would he show us where nobody would tattle on him not showing it? Sadly, his duty as a teacher prevented setting a bad example, so Caligo continued on. Your promotions will be determined on which team wins, along with the rank of any opponent you hit, he explained to the class. Now then, I will be handing out armbands for Team A and Team B. He showed them all the red and yellow bands. A is yellow and B is red. I will be dividing you based on balancing out powers and skills, so no complaining. He sent a look out to Kamui. As long as I have simply one of these lovely ladies, I'll be content with the team I'm on. The bird-like student bowed, moron. We've wasted enough time, get moving. The class formed a simple line and moved up one by one, the last 3 in line being the idiot trio of Asmodeus Alice, Clara Valak, and their troublesome ringleader Izukumidoriya, except something seemed off with the bushy hair boy. He's not smiling. He's not even doing that infernal trembling he's done on habit up to this point. Come to think of it, he hasn't even said a word to his lackeys since the beginning of class. He looked deeper into the green teen's face. Is he actually angry at something? I assumed he was like Valak, never knowing when to take anything seriously. Speaking of which, the imp-ish annoyance was clinging to the boy's arm as usual, but her face was less of an obnoxious smile and more of concern. It freaked him out in all honesty, but at least she wasn't being a distraction. As for Asmodeus, his face was still the same level of puzzlement he held since the start of the school year, and it was still geared towards Midoriya, except he seemed to be more at a distance, looking almost afraid? No, that can't be right. He's never shied away from confronting the little fool. Did something happen between them? Whatever, it didn't matter. If their little group was crumbling from within, it would ease his headache all the more. It wasn't long afterwards for the teams to be evenly divided. On Team A, there was Sabnok, Paisro, Clara, Jazz, Elizabetta Roman 9, and Izuku. Team B, likewise, consisted of Gomen, Kami, Karoy, Schneider, Saul, Lyde, and Asmodeus. Whoa, Asmodeus and Izuku are on opposite teams, Lyde shouted as both teams walked to their side of the court. This is the first time they'd be against each other since their first fight. Yeah, except this time, there's no room for a draw, Sabnok yelled, patting his supposed rival on the shoulder. Thou hear that, thou pink-haired bastard. Today, a clear winner and loser will be decided. That was going to be annoying. Caligo sighed, making sure nobody was where they shouldn't be, before raising his hand. Let the match begin. Paisro yawned. This was going to be annoying. He just wanted to take a nap. But this promotion exam was getting in the way of that. Ranks were important. But how could he care about that if he was so tired right now? He'll just wait until the next exam later in the year, or maybe even next year. He was too tired to decide on anything right now. But apparently everyone else was pumped up as hell, screaming as they took shots, stole, and caught. Kamui got beaten up for giving the ball to Elizabetta, but that was to be expected. He watched them all, and noticeably Izuku, who moved and refused to be hit when a volley came after him. This ended when he caught the last ball. He expected him to enjoy getting hit. Maybe he was too tired to enjoy the adrenaline rush right now. All right, now to return. The boy froze, looking down at his hands, then back at the enemy, then at Clara. Hey Clara, did I ever train on how to throw the ball? He asked tentatively. Nope, she replied in a happy and oblivious tone. The boy's shoulders noticeably sagged, and he could see why. Well, whatever, as long as they could get this over with and sleep, it didn't matter either way. Clara, do you still have the soccer? Izuku bit his tongue a bit. I mean, the super-duper kicker ball launcher? What was that? Oh, I see what you want to do. Clara dug something out of her pocket. What it was he didn't know. He was closing his eyes now. Maybe he'll get out. Maybe he'll end up being the last one standing. It didn't matter. It was time to sleep. He then heard screaming. Dang it, let him sleep. Valak is out. Some of the balls she shot weren't from the game itself, and count as using magic on an opponent. He heard Kaligo-sensei call out. He then heard them speak up about balls being around as they tried to find something. Too annoying. He shot at the ground, magic shifting it into edges and pillars. Agers is out. Your magic hit another student. Finally, he could sleep. Asmodeus was truly at a loss for words right now. He thought he finally got the whole picture, but once again, izukumidoriya managed to shatter his entire perspective. But this time, he wasn't angry like before, just confused. Not confused frustration, just confusion. Was Midoriya just trying to get me to pity him? No, that's not his style. Even when someone doesn't like him, he just tends to do what he wants. He's never actually cared about what everyone thinks of him, me in particular. That's probably how he befriended Saburo despite his personality. He was drowning in these thoughts, unaware of the world around him since yesterday. He barely got any sleep, simply going with emotions. He knows he walked a lot, grabbed something, and threw a ball of sorts. But that didn't matter. Why do I even care about this? Why do I care about Midoriya? Do I want revenge? Do I want to beat him? Do I want to care about him? That was ludicrous. This was Beyblades. The most important rule of Beyblades was to rank up, and Izuku was at the bottom. Making friends has only made him weaker. But he's rallied the entire school to his side more than once. He's helped the likes of Valak improve her natural-born magic in ways she's never thought of. He's tamed the untamable guardian of Cutthroat Valley. He even has the student council president in his corner. How could anyone ranked so much lower than him be this strong? One by one, he heard the names of his classmates be called out by Kaligo-sensei. But that didn't matter. Those people didn't matter to him in the slightest. But they probably matter to Midoriya. For some damn reason, these nobodies matter to him. He felt something on his foot. Looking down from his thoughts, he noticed something had rolled into it. What is a ball doing here, he thought, before realizing he was no longer in his home, or even in class. He was in the field, and the only two competitors left were him and Midoriya. The only ones left, he muttered. This was it. He could win. He could get Midoriya out of his head. All he needed to do was make him lose, and reduce all those hours of training to nothing. All the time they've spent together to nothing. I hope you don't expect a sob story will make me hold back against you. He ignited the ball, making it burn with a blinding blaze. In fact, I'm more motivated than ever to end this rivalry between us. Once I throw this ball, it'll all be over. You're holding back. The voice of his supposed rival interrupted him, and he stared at the eyes. The determination was there, but there was something else. The eyes he had when he saw that blonde about to be attacked. The eyes that stared at Valak when she seemed sad. The eyes that looked at Sabnok when he mentioned going through Cutthroat Valley. "You're amazing, Asmodeus. Don't let me hold you back, or it'll mean nothing." The boy was concerned for him. He was concerned for him, the man who battled and injured him on day one, who stayed by his side for nothing other than curiosity, who called him a moron, who ruined the term friend. Did he ruin it? He stuck by the boy's side. The one calling out for him. Izuku. Of course it had to be him. Of freaking course the deranged honor student had to steal everyone's attention again. Why, if it were her out there, she would impale him on a pick. Izuku. Then the representative shouted the boy's first name, everyone gaping. He never referred to anyone by their first name, ever. That was a sign of familiarity he refused to show anyone. "I don't get it. I still don't after all this time," he shouted, something welling in his eyes. "I don't get why you care about others. I don't get why you're risking yourself every second for them. I don't get why you're always smiling in the face of danger. Why are you smiling when you're about to get killed? Aren't you afraid?" "Of course I'm afraid, you idiot," Izuku shouted back with more fire than Asmodeus could ever produce. "I'm afraid every day. Every single day of my life for the past 10 years has been like living in my own personal hell. I'm afraid that everything I've worked for, that everything that the people I love give me will all be in vain. And I'm afraid of demons like you are going to kill someone like me just by accident and no one will bat an eye. Then why do you keep doing it? Why do you keep going on trying to concern yourself with others even with all this fear?" She would be angry at him stealing the spotlight, but she was too caught up within the two demons screaming at each other with rare raw emotions displayed between them. "Because I want to be a hero that saves everyone with a smile," he screamed, with the most passion she's ever heard one demon scream. "I want to smile so brightly that it'll tell everyone it's okay because I am here." He barely stopped for a breath. "I've learned from the best that those who can keep smiling, even in the darkest of times, are always the strongest." A hero that saves people with a smile? I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. Asmodeus let out a laugh, sounding both broken and passionate at the same time. "However, I'd like to see it. I want to see that crazy ambition. I want to see it with you. Please, let me be your friend." Izuku let out a weird expression he hasn't done before. A mix between a smile and a smirk, as tears ran down his face. "Of course, Alice, and as my friend, don't hold back," he shouted. Of course, now the danger junkie wanted an even worse situation, and dragged Asmodeus into his situation. "Understood, but from now on, call me Az." He laughed again. "Wow, from where I'm standing, you don't even have a chance in hell to win." As an ice user, Kurori had a specific knack for feeling temperature. She could feel the flames rise even though there was nothing growing, but she could feel them as they slowly turned blue, looking more unstable as flames compressed into a denser, highly combustible sphere. It became brighter and stranger, until it appeared as if a massive wing from Satan himself seeped out of Tartarus. "I swear on the honor of the Asmodeus household, this is the strongest I can muster, and I will hit you with everything I have." Izuku, meanwhile, began trembling, but behind him his shadow was extended from the light, looking as if it was a dancing devil laughing in joy. "Give it to me then, come at me with everything you got." And with that, Izuku began closing the distance. He was a effing madman that would kill anyone at a distance, let alone point blank. And the ball left Asmodeus' grip. It was comparable to a mini sun, shining brighter and scorching with more heat than any star. And the little maniac caught it in his hands. "Thank you," Izuku screamed in both joy and pain, the ball twirling his little body around, threatening to push him out of bounds as the very ground cracked under the pressure of flames, rocketing Izuku back, but somehow, he still stood his ground. "I know it looks impossible, I know it looks like I'm going to lose, but right now, I can't focus on my limits." A bright, rainbow-like glow covered his hand, and then the ball, masking it in a symphony of colors. "Right now, it's time for me to break those limits, and go beyond." Izuku leapt in the air, keeping his aim right at Asmodeus. Plus ultra, spinning and using the very force of the flames as a propulsion, he threw it right back, lobbing Asmodeus in the face and sending him flying. Asmodeus caught the ball. However, Asmodeus is out of bounds. Team A is the winner. Damn it, not only did she lose, but Midoriya gained all the glory as well. Curse you and your grandchildren, izukumidoriya. He won. He actually won. Sure, his hands were smoking and burnt badly, and his legs felt like jelly from that last maneuver. But that was all minor compared to the fact that he won. And Az was now his friend. Ha, I totally called it. Jazz held up a stack of bills in the air. Don't be disappointed, people. You know the rules. About half the class sighed in disappointment, while the other half held their heads up high in satisfaction. Wait, did you guys bet on the fight? Izuku didn't know what to expect, except maybe be a bit flattered if someone actually threw money at the thought of him winning anything. Oh what? Nah. We all knew it was probably between you and Asmodeus, so we didn't bother, Light explained. So we betted on whether or not Asmodeus would be your friend. Everyone else nodded, even Clara. I knew you'd be okay. And Az was just being really stubborn about it, so I thought it was only a matter of time. She squeezed right next to him. He was like, super jealous of me. You guys, Izuku started, tears forming in his eyes. Seriously, how much can one guy cry? Lade shouted, staring at the seemingly endless well of tears known as Izuku. Do we need to call a plumber or something to keep your eyes in check or something? No, I'm afraid it's hereditary. Az came up, stumbling, and more than a little blue in the face. I guess it's one of those little quirks we just need to get used to. Wait, was that my quirk? No, Mom was still telekinetic. It had to just be a superhuman thing unrelated to quirks. He wouldn't have thought it possible, but hell apparently existed and he beat their version of dodgeball, so go figure whatever would happen next. Haha, as if I expected nothing less from my rival. I was wise to choose the superior classmate. Saburo patted his back a little too hard. The boy trembled in internal agony. Everything was on metaphorical fire. Silence. Like clockwork, they all shut up and turned to their teacher. Kaligo-sensei looked over the group. Midoriya, you took out a Dalit 4, and for that, earned your first promotion. Take pride. He pointed a finger at Izuku, magic beam moving to his Aleph 1 badge, the symbol shifting and revealing a new Bet 2. Bet 2, Izuku muttered, feeling something well up in his chest. A great sense of pride blooming. I did this, I earned this. Way to go, Izuku-kins, Clara cheered. Nice job, kid. First level up, Lade complimented. So we've finally reached the same level, rival, Saburo chuckled. A step closer to being with the ladies. You be-starred, Kamui encouraged him. A lovely little addition to yourself, Elisabetta murmured in a way that made him feel like prey. How lovely, said Karori, her fingers gripping strong enough to draw BLD. Oh well, even if half of his class still made him feel like in constant danger, it didn't matter. He had it now, a path to run down, and he took the step to confirm it wouldn't break under him. He was on his path to be a hero. Amory watched the boy cheering with his classmates, quite frankly looking the most elated she's ever seen him in the short amount of time she's known him. In all honesty, hearing what the honor student and Asmodeus had to say to each other was very enlightening, as well as a bit embarrassing for herself in retrospect. Did he really think she was going to murder him on a whim? Worst case scenario, she sends him to Papa so he can put Izuku in the right place in the human world. She wasn't an active and scary threat to him, at least, that was what she assumed. By the great Devi, I'm an idiot. All that shaking and trembling. Of course it was him being afraid. Why did I assume he was getting aroused? Her face glowed a bit pink, realizing that in all that time she's seen him shake and tremble. She found it pretty cute. Madam President, stated Grave, it seems Asmodeus has gone through significant improvement since day one. He never displayed that much power into a single attack before. She sighed. He was such a factual man. Rank means strength, gravity goes down. Well, we don't all live by those rules. Are you so dense by rank that you're completely blind to everything that just occurred? She stubbornly planted her foot down. Think about it. Even without all that heat building up, the force of Asmodeus's throw was enough to send anyone else out of the field. Think about how much strength and quick thinking it must have taken to not only catch the ball, but to use its own momentum against it to fire it back at twice the power. The man actually paused to consider it before his eyes widened. That kid's bones must have been broken by sheer force, yet he's still standing, he muttered. I wouldn't say they're broken, Amory retorted, noticing Izuku's wobbly walk. At least not entirely, she fixed at the end, considering how much the school would have to invest in recovery magic at this rate. He may not have as much magical potential as Asmodeus, but he's shown more cunning, fortitude, and ambition than any first year I've ever encountered, maybe even rivaling the second and third years. Grave took another look down at the boy, now climbing the stairs with his group. Are you considering inviting him into the student council, Batler? He inquired after a few seconds. Her mind actually paused on that one. If he was in their Batler, then that would mean more time around him. She could keep an eye on him, train him up, learn more text, and chat around his cute face. Her face went red, turning away to keep her dignity in front of her fellow Batler. He has potential. It'd be a waste not to consider it. This was for purely practical reasons. Izuku wanted to be a hero. Being in the student council would prepare him for such a role. Very well then, I'll get the papers ready at once. Should I extend them to anyone else? He asked her. She thought about it for a few seconds. 2 more, but leave them blank for now. I'll see what to do afterwards. With a nod, the member left her alone with her thoughts, thinking about that grin as he ran at Asmodeus, and when he shouted plus ultra, it was incredible. Izuku, you truly have the makings of an outstanding demon. Plus ultra. Maybe she'll save that line for later. Try it out in combat and see how it plays out. In any case, she was proud to see that spark burn like a wildfire, armed with a smile that can light up the sky. And when you finally reach the ranks, I'll be waiting for you to stand by me. All Might found the boy at the beach. He went there to clean it up, community service and all that, but then he saw the boy doing his work for him. It was strange, so he sat down and simply watched the boy for the next week. The boy worked tirelessly for hours on end, hardly ever stopping to rest or even eat. Come to think of it, he never actually saw him eat anything, except maybe the stray fish and other sea creatures that washed up on the shore that he cooked over a self-made campfire that he started almost effortlessly. He barely even went to school, seemingly more focused on doing this task rather than attending. It was both worrying and intriguing. Thus, he decided to ask the boy directly, well, as Yagi, not as All Might. He didn't just want to scare the boy. Hey, young man, what are? He approached as casually as possible, wearing his now overly baggy clothes and having dark, sunken eyes on his face. Ah, trash zombie, the blue-haired young man backed away on instinct. Stay back, I have a... He stopped, looking down at the random object that he was holding. A microwave, and I'm not afraid to cook you. Whoa, slow your roll there, kid. He tried to calm the boy down. My name is Yagi Tashinori. I just came to look at the place, and heard it got trash covered in recent years. If I was a zombie, I wouldn't be able to talk to you. Oh, I guess that's a good point, the boy pondered out loud, before bowing his head profusely. Sorry. I accused you of being a flesh-eating monster because of how scary you looked. Now, it's all right. You'd be surprised how often I get that. Some BLD came coughing up as he spoke. You see that right there doesn't help my case. Oh, sorry mister. I've been so rude and now you're coughing up BLD. Let me help. The lad took his hand and guided the weakened form of All Might through the trash. You might want to watch your step. It can get a bit tricky to navigate through. Don't worry, I'm more nimble than I look. That's what he said, but the amount of trash he was trudging over said otherwise. He looked back at the boy, who seemed pretty well versed traversing through the large maze. You seem to get around pretty well too. Yeah, I had to learn the ins and outs, trying to clean the place out, the boy said, smiling nervously. Someone asked for help, so whenever I have free time I try to work on it. You're cleaning the beach, all on your own, because someone asked for help? Yagi made sure to word it slowly, wondering if there really was someone that pure-hearted in doing the right thing. Yeah, basically. The kid rubbed the back of his head nervously. When someone asks me for help with something, I can't really ever say no. Yagi stared at the boy, looking for any sort of lie or hidden motivation. When he found none, he let out a grin. What's your name, kid? Oh, I'm Iruma Suzuki, he bowed again. Young Suzuki. He couldn't believe that he'd found him, his true successor. You have the heart of a true hero, he reinflated himself, showing his heroic form. The boy was twitching in excitement, no doubt in awe of such a revelation. Yes, young Suzuki, it is I, all. Ah, scary bunny man. The hero blinked in confusion, doubly so when the boy threw the microwave at his head. You haven't heard of me? He asked tentatively. That was practically an impossibility, considering he's been the most popular hero in the world for decades. Oh, are you famous? Sorry, I don't really keep up with TV or anything, Irma nervously shrugged. Come to think of it, I don't think I've ever watched anything on a screen before in my life. Of course, how could he be so blind? Someone that dedicated doesn't need to worry himself with news or media. Truly someone to put his faith in. Well then, young Uruma, tell me, can I please put my faith in you as my successor, in order to become a great hero? He asked, the boy flinching at the word please. Yes, you can count on me, he shouted, now looking a bit frozen. Taking the mantle without a second thought, truly someone who would rush in and save the day. DMN this school, DMN his shitty extras for classmates, DMN that Deku, just DMN everyone in general. The day Deku disappeared should have been the greatest day in his life. The most useless pebble in his path of greatness could no longer drag him down with his worthless dreams of being a hero. It was impossible without a quirk, so what good did it do to waste so much time begging for the impossible to happen? And then Katsuki heard his old hag crying. She was screaming about Auntie Inko and Izuku vanishing off the face of the earth without a single notice. Police eventually came by a week later. He told them what he knew and they left. 3 months passed and there was still no word on what had happened. The BSTRD Hisashi was overseas, so besides a few words they weren't able to infer much. He didn't know why it bothered so much to see his empty desk every day. He hated even acknowledging his existence. He's been just sitting there behind that nerd. He's always been there, behind him, always been behind him since the beginning, since he's gotten his quirk. Since that day in the creek. Did Deku really just give up? All that running, all the hours spent chasing after him, now all for nothing. Katsuki looked down on his own hands. He pushed the boy down every day of his life, shouted him away and into a corner, burned him harshly. Nobody else noticed. They just went along like he never existed, like he was a joke that got old. Because that's all he ever was when he was to his classmates, a joke. He growled, hating this line of thought but unable to stop himself. He remembered the boy standing in front of another kid fingers went after. He only jumped in because Deku got involved, and he loved putting that weakling in his place. But he wasn't a weakling, was he? He took his beatings and rolled with them. And he always came back up. No matter how many times bakugou told him to give up, no matter how many times he coated his skin with ash, no matter how many times he's been nothing but an but to him, he was always there. Their last meeting, he told the boy to off himself, to take a swan dive and hope for a quirk. Katsuki let out a broken laugh, finally realizing something that he had never noticed before. He was the villain of the story, wasn't he? The other two groupies took notice but refused to call him out on it. That was how they survived this long. He heard shouting, turning a corner in the hall to see a girl with her hair grabbed by a couple of Alpha Beach. Come on you loser, just give me the notes and I won't have to ruin your clothes again. It's a simple solution. I figured a nerd like you would get it in no time. He didn't need to get involved, he could ignore them. That girl who's looking at that beach with tears in her eyes and hope fading. A pleading look that asked for help, a look he saw on many an extra, on Deku. That desperation that held out for someone to come. How many times did Deku try to be that someone, only for him to punish the nerd brutally for it? How many times did Deku cry out for help, only for everyone to ignore it? He looked at the girl again, tears streaming down her eyes just like... He shook his head, and before he knew it, his body started to move on its own. Never again. He will not be the villain again. Hey, you stuck-up rich beach, cut it out, he shouted to the group. Who the hell do you think you... The beach's words cut off as she turned and realized who she was cursing out. Oh bakugou, how are you? I didn't mean to. If you know me then you know I hate stuttering, right? He growled, raising his hand as the group tensed. And right now, the one thing I hate more than that are uptight Alpha Beach that clearly don't know their place. Scram before I make you my new practice dummy. It made him sick that a part of him felt pleasure in their screams as they ran from him. He had to work on that. "Thank you," he heard Glasses mutter. "Don't mention it." "Seriously, don't mention it to anybody," he instinctively responded, internally grimacing. He hated how this was the type of person he found annoying, those weaker and deserving of being stomped. Stop it. He needed to be better than this. "Just, if she comes back, come find me." She nodded quickly, running away, past the two extras that always stick around him. The two now looked at him as if he had grown a second head. Bakugou? What was that exactly?" the finger guy asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. The beach was just annoying." He shrugged. This was going to be a thing for a while, wasn't it? "Let's get out here before more extras start getting the wrong idea, you shitty extras." The two looked at each other weirdly and followed him. "Okay, just making sure. I almost thought Deku being gone would have changed you or something, so it's nice to know nothings." He got an explosion to the face. At least he would have if Bakugou didn't reel it back just enough to not hit him. "Don't call him Deku. You don't ever call him Deku, you." He trailed off, his mind drawing a blank. He was going to look like a big butt. Well, bigger than he already was. "What's your name again?" Aizawa had seen his fair share of demon rituals. When you go where heroes never showed up, you see some weird SHT. He'll never forget the Rat King and his army of rodents. Took a week to get the cats to stop attacking him from the lingering smell. A couple days back he found one that, surprisingly, actually worked. Full-on man with horns shows up and starts murdering the FCK out of everyone. He was able to only half-cancel his quirk at that, considering the man claimed he couldn't fly yet was perfectly content to lob water balls like nobody's business. After the incident he thought to himself about talking to Odd Eye. The man most likely connected with the occult and knew what was real and what wasn't, and probably had one under his thrall, and realized Nedzu was likely the more logical choice given the man's arsenal of knowledge. One bonding ritual later, and he formed a contract with a man named Caligo. The basis went as follows: he may be summoned at any point in time besides predetermined workdays. They would only attack fellow demons, while Aizawa would attack fellow humans. They also exchanged work tips, logical ruses versus life-threatening situations. The ways to torture the annoyances in their lives. Aizawa began pulling out one of the summoning circles as he spoke the ancient demonic tongue unknown to most of humanity and barely learned by Nedzu, a triumph he would hold over the rat for all time till death. Black smoke appeared, and it wasn't long before the shadowy demon teacher appeared before him, although he seemed particularly stressed. "Oh, it's you. Was it that time again?" "Yeah, I brought the good stuff while I'm at it." He held out something no demon could resist, an apple juice box. While low quality, their kind didn't have human fruit growing in their world, so anything that one would consider average is pretty exotic to them. "Great," Caligo replied, taking the pouch without hesitation and drinking a large gulp. "Oh yeah, I needed this. I'm NRSNG the biggest headache right now. And this'll probably be the only time I'll have to forget about him," the demon growled. "Well, we're going to be here for a while. Want to vent it out? I can complain about my BSTRD in return," Aizawa offered the man. "Oh, you have no idea what I'm dealing with right now. First the idiot that runs the school docks my pay just because I get rid of a few cameras, and then he brings his nuisance of a grandson to school who's arguably worse. Ugh, nepotism. I've dealt with that before." It wasn't rare for a family of a hero to try and emulate them, believing it would be easy just because they were related. And you can't just expel him, can you? Already tried. Unfortunately, he managed to go beyond as you heroes do it. The boy summoned an FCK demon of all things, and the biggest heart attack of my life at all that. That thing is the only reason I actually dislike cats. The only disagreement we have in our lives. Also, I thought only humans could summon demons. That's how it should be. I swear, it should be impossible. This little nobody comes out of nowhere and suddenly shows power beyond what any demon his age should do. He summons a demon, tames an unruly killer bird, steals other students' magic, and begins spouting that friendship CRP you humans go on and on about. Aizawa blinked at that one. "Do you think he was raised in the human world?" he asked, the demon in question stopping, turning to the hero in question. "I suppose it would make sense. The boy's belief system works differently for normal demons, Caligo paused, cupping his chin in his hand. He has said he's been sheltered from most demon customs, but then again, Sullivan isn't a typical demon either. I'd blame his influence over his kin. Bosses, the worst friend you can sporadically rely on. Aizawa raised a pouch in mock toast. I'll drink to that. They stayed silent for a bit. I don't think I've ever gotten a clear look at it. Your sky is weird. Is that racist or nationalist? Why not both? Why not indeed? Their relaxation was interrupted by the shoutings of mortals and boasting. That's our cue. It never ends for us, does it? Never for a teacher. Asmodeus was a man who strove to perfection, trying to gain more and more strength, knowledge, and experience. He learned all magic, as to be prepared for anything. Thus, he thought he would not be surprised by anything izukumidoriya pulled. The green-haired boy stretching his arm and punching his face with enough force to render him dizzy quickly changed his mind. What the hell? He covered his face, already feeling his left eye getting swollen. He would rather die than let anyone know how much the honor student was able to hurt him with one attack. How can something as stupid as an overly long arm cause this much pain? Oh, you see, it's not the arm itself, but the elastic force caused by repeated motion, along with a combination of muscles pulling themselves along each tendon to amplify the force in question. My entire body is essentially made up of RBB, and well, RBB itself may not be the hardest substance out there, but enough momentum from even the tiniest amount can cause bruising and even a few fractures if applied right. I was being rhetorical, you moron. Wow, some of the students muttered. That guy's confident enough to give a lecture on his own power to someone like Asmodeus of all people. No wonder, he's Sullivan's grandson, remember? But since when can Sullivan stretch? Maybe he just has another bloodline. Why would Sullivan even bother with him then? That stretching looks like fun. Do you think he can stretch any part of his body? That last one sounded particularly vulgar. Enough, he created a flaming sword. If you're made out of RBB, then let's see you bounce off the blades of my righteous anger. The sword was stopped by two hands, causing Asmodeus to double take. What? How are you? Heat doesn't work on RBB that easily. Otherwise tires wouldn't be as durable as they are. As he was punched in the stomach, his first thought was wondering what a tire was. His second was DMN, this hurts. Why won't you just fall? He tossed away all courtesy at this point and threw a punch at his freckled face. His head went back and, huh? I did say my entire body was made out of RBB, right? Despite Midoriya's head being 30 feet away from his body, he was still able to talk as if he felt no pain whatsoever. It was probably the most ridiculous sight he's ever seen, but he couldn't bring himself to laugh because this ludicrous power was overwhelming him. Brooklyn Smash, he shouted, driving his head straight into Asmodeus. The resounding thud heard across the school louder than the bell ever could. Asmodeus' world began to grow darker. His entire worldview was completely shattered in less than 5 minutes, along with a small portion of his skull. He went to Babley's with the intention of dominating the student body by the end of his first year, and then the staff by his third. All that planning, all that ambition just gone. Thanks to a boy made out of RBB. Izuku, welcome class everyone, I'm Izuku. Amory, and I'm Amory. Here we shall explain human and demon culture interaction. Now then, first up are quirks and bloodlines. A fascinating read. Would you like to take the honor? Izuku, it would be my pleasure. Now, as you all know, my world is just like yours, except 100 years in the future and more like something out of a comic book. No one knows exactly how it happened. All we know is that one day, a baby girl started glowing, and before we knew it, superpowers became the new normal. Amory, there are many theories as to how it happened. Visibly starts blushing according to the upper brass. The most ongoing theory is intercourse between humans and demons. Most likely, lonely virgin males worried about dying alone sold their souls in exchange for some NTMT time with a succubus. Izuku coughs. The other theory is that it was caused by a virus, either from cross-contamination from species or a major disaster outbreak such as the Corona incident. Amory, that, or one of those succubi that were summoned got angry when the lonely virgin wouldn't take care of the child and cursed humanity for all time. Izuku, face reddens even more. Amory-san, You seem pretty focused on that angle. Amory, it's a tragic love story. Two souls of earth and hell meet, and the cruelty of humanity drives the vulnerable demon to near insanity. Izuku, you haven't explained how bloodlines were created either to begin with. Shows visible annoyance at her angle. Amory, the ongoing theory is demons with similar magic continuing intercourse until they combined it with their very BLD. We would have shown images, but they tend to get a bit graphic, and this is supposed to be a general audience fic. Izuku nearly falls to the ground. I was unaware that we were going to talk about sex so much today, Amory-sen. Amory, it's genetics. Izuku, what did you think we were going to discuss? How they'd interact with each other in a violent manner where quirked BLD acts as a poisonous substance to any bloodline. Izuku, yes, I'd like to get on that topic. Anything other than deranged and KNKY sec. Amory, sputters, but it's general knowledge. How was any of that deranged or kinky? Izuku, all of it was deranged and kinky. When you combine sec and curses together, it's immediately labeled kinky and deranged. Amory, or maybe humans are just too soft for general demon knowledge. Izuku, sighs anyway, if quirk genes are poisonous to bloodlines, does that mean that humans grew these genetics to counter feedings from demons? Amory, please, that would imply my papa was incapable of keeping the border in peace. Izuku, wasn't I sold off just 3 months ago? Amory, that's due to Sullivan having enough power to bypass most of the security, and your father created a legal path for him to follow through. Izuku, doesn't that imply human demon summoning itself is legal? Amory, we're cutting this short. Izuku, no wait 5. Inko walked over to her son's room, knocking on the door. Izuku, it's time to get up. You should take your shower before breakfast, she shouted to the boy. He didn't respond right away. Guess it wasn't too surprising. He had a big day with the ranking exams, and spent an entire week training with Opera-san and Clara. She was glad her little talk with Asmodeus seemed to nudge things in the direction as well, if what Izuku said about yesterday was true. Izuku, you should be up by now. She walked into his room, and he was sitting by his room's desk for note-taking, staring at the little gold badge he had earned yesterday. Let's see, the execution Cannonball is done for the year. That leaves the division party, first term finals, harvest festival, and the music festival. I'll go to Opera-san for the information. Grandpa said it's very different from when he went there, and it's better to have someone with hands-on experience. But that still left a lot of holes other than the basics. Division party will reveal itself soon, just study for exams. The harvest festival will train for after summer, and they said the music festival is a class group exercise. I feel confident enough for the exams, but I doubt I can pull my weight in the music festival. The boy stopped muttering and raised his badge high. Still though, I made it to bet too. Izuku. Inko's voice was enough to get him out of his own head for a second. I see everything's been paying off so far. All your strong work has proven itself. She started to tear up, doing her best not to cry. She didn't want to burden Opera-san with another flood. Why, yeah, it has. I was able to put all my effort into something, and for the first time, I was able to achieve something. I actually moved up, literally. He showed off the tiny badge. This is actual proof that I've grown. I'm not sure in what way exactly, but I can still keep pushing forward towards an actual goal. I'm not Deku anymore. He paused, covering his mouth. I'm Izuku. When Asmodeus and Clara came up to me the other day, he mentioned you had scars from burns, the kind made from explosions. She sat across from him on his bed. Why didn't you tell me it was bakugou? The boy paled. No, it wasn't bakugou. There was just a lab accident back in Aldera. I didn't want to worry you. You looked stressed from your job, so I just kinda treated it myself. He was such a bad liar. Izuku. She should have known. Katsuki was the only other kid she had seen her son around, and the blonde's brash personality was a red flag she chose to ignore. Maybe at first, she assumed that he was just like his mother, expressing protective feelings through explosive outbursts at others. The fury she felt for the brat, knowing now all that anger was geared towards her baby. You shouldn't feel the need to defend him anymore. He's gone from our lives now. They all are. No, I can't just forget about him, he shouted defensively. He was the closest to All Might I ever had growing up. Chasing after him was the only thing I had aside from my notebooks. He was the symbol of winning, of power, of victory, and he'll make a great hero and... A symbol of power and victory. Does that mean you imagine beating people up as a source of getting ahead? She asked tentatively. The boy froze. Well, I did lob a flaming dodgeball with rocket propulsion, he offhandedly muttered. He did what? How were demons a better influence than a childhood friend? Okay, I'm going to have to talk to Papa about how he runs his school, but for now, I'm going to assume you had a good reason for it. Why, yeah, the exam was basically demon dodgeball. We were divided into 2 teams, and Asmodeus and I were on opposite teams, so when we were the last one standing, we just kinda spilled our guts at each other. He didn't understand why I wanted to help others, probably still doesn't fully get it, but he wants to be friends now, so there's been progress made. Well, it was progress, and the smile on her baby's face melted her heart. As long as he doesn't give you a strong time anymore, I suppose I forgive him, for now. Izuku tilted his head, probably unaware of the lengths she'll go through to protect him. She already made plans for a funeral. Maybe netherworld culture was rubbing off of her a bit too much. I'm just glad you actually have a supportive friend in Clara. Yeah, Clara's a great friend. Pretty clingy though, not that I mind, she's just really attached due to a lot of bad things. And I've never had anyone act this nice to me before, let alone find me fun to be around. Now, as a mother, she had a certain responsibility to fulfill. One that she hadn't been able to indulge into due to constantly needing to keep her baby on top emotionally. But now that he was on top, with plenty of friends, she could finally let herself run wild with it. So when can I expect grandbabies myself? The aim was just to embarrass her child. Given he went unconscious, maybe it was just a tad too indulgent. This is gonna be so fun. First day with new students, a teacher's best learning experience, and he would not let them down. Robin spent so much time studying to be the best teacher he could be. He completely missed orientation. A real shame too, everyone kept saying it was unforgettable. As the students came, he felt a certain unease, like a victim unaware he was about to be mugged. Strange, it's not like the misfit class was untrustworthy, they just had a bit too much energy. Welcome students, today we're going to be bonding with our familiars. He got a rainbow of reactions at that. Some happy, some sad, one so excited that he trembled and smiled. Such a lively bunch. Now then, let's start by summoning familiars. First up is Clara Valak, Robin asked, looking at a list. The little green-haired girl jumped up. That's me, me, she shouted, getting her seal ready from her pocket. Summon familiar. In a heartbeat, the smoke formed. Once it vanished, it showed a lizard-like creature that looked a bit like a child's drawing come to life. This girl must be super cheery and upbeat, a great attitude to have for summoning. Incredible, it's a FANFIC. They're known for being ultra-intelligent, rare, and mysterious beasts. Interesting, so they're a rare beast? The excited kid muttered. I'm surprised the Valak idiot could summon one, much less tame it, the pink-haired student retorted. Asmodeus, don't be mean. She still summoned hers without trouble, the excited kid responded to the pink-haired guy, and he looked a bit ashamed. The FANFIC then picked up a stick, tossing it as the Valak in question chased it. When she returned, she dropped it down in front of the familiar in question, who began patting her while speaking its own name. All right, you may have had a point about the taming part, the boy relented, the pink-haired student now looking smug. And why does it speak like a Pokemon? The hell is a Pokemon? The blonde with stripes asked. The excited kid looked at him, specifically the little device the blonde had. Probably something you'd like to know about, but probably shouldn't. Aw man, now I really want to know. Okay, next up is Alice Asmodeus. The pink-haired boy stepped up, pulling out the seal and setting it ablaze. In a flash, a freaking Gorgon appeared into the world. Wow, a real live Gorgon snake. I didn't expect anything this rare today. You must be really strong with magic in order to summon one. Asmodeus looked pretty pleased with himself. It is the very least I could do. After all, I am a Dalit 4. The very top of the class. Oh, but didn't you lose to Izuku yesterday and become his servant? A tall student with rings around his fingers shouted out. He threw your own fire back and completely trashed you. I am not his servant, I am his friend, he shouted, infuriated. Oh right, never expected Asmodeus of all people to join the chaos-spreading gang, a bird kid said. This caused Asmodeus to flinch, looking at a tree guiltily. Robin should probably move this along. Alright then, next up, izukumidoriya. All eyes were then turned to the excited kid, who kept that excited shaking. Great, there was one student here that shared his passion. Me? Oh, we're finally going to see your ultra-powerful summoning abilities in action now, right? The blonde called him out. Trusta, sensei, this is one you have to see for yourself. Only my rival could summon something so incredible as to rival I, not like anyone else could hope to match. The buff student gave a cocky grin full of teeth, and a grinding noise could be heard from Asmodeus. Would you miscreants knock it off? You're putting a lot of pressure on him right now, Asmodeus defended. Come on, Izuku-kins, it's been forever since I've seen Operaco's kitty form. I need to see it again. Please, 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 Clara chanted over and over again. Aw man, this was too much. He had to see this familiar right away, or he'll explode from excitement. Fine. Izuku grabbed his seal and placed it on his hands. Just don't freak out too much, sensei. It can be a little startling to see for the first time. He clapped his hands, and in a quick puff of smoke, a small red cat creature with wings appeared. Hey Opera-san, I'm sorry for summoning you out of nowhere. No need to apologize, young MSTR. It is what the contract states after all. A talking familiar? I've never seen that before. Excuse me teacher, 1 second. The boy with rings shouted, before everyone barring Izuku himself went into a huddle. Only various instances of bet and find out were heard before they broke up. Midoriya only let out a sigh. What did you guys bet on this time? Midoriya asked like he was expecting it. Whether or not that demon familiar of yours will end up causing trouble later, the bird student replied with a shrug. I can assure you I am properly trained and well-mannered, otherwise I would be able to fulfill my duties. The cat familiar flew up to the group. And I can assure you, when trouble arises, I'll be there to end it, by any means necessary. Such an intimidating aura. This was the best day ever. Okay then, who's up next? Opera sat down, thinking of the pros and cons of the situation. Pro, they could look after MSTR Izuku, they could still use their full powers in a smaller form, and they could finally lick their skin without people complaining or finding it weird. Con, people weirdly found him scary. Well, scarier, in this form for some reason, just because he could knock someone out cold in 1 pounce, and agreeing to the contract met, he could be taken away at any time without warning. It was a shame too, they were having such a delightful talk with Inko about Izuku's potential children with Miss Valak this morning. The imagination of a happy mother was truly a sight to behold. Then again, they agreed to this particular position only because of Inko's worry for her son, so there was very little they could complain about. Not that they were complaining at all. They've enjoyed the time training for the ranking exam, so this wouldn't be so different. Although now this current task seems a bit, how was a good way to put it? Come on, play some frisbee, demeaning, that's the word. Tuppy, we don't have to go through with this, you know, Izuku whispered in his ear, making sure the cheerful teacher couldn't hear them. I can handle a bad grade for 1 day. There's no need to embarrass us both. They responded with a small but firm bap across the cheek. We won't deter your education just for a little dignity. I can assure you, I'm fine with this. Now throw the frisbee so your sensei can move on from us. Izuku nodded, looking nervous with a faint blush as he threw the disc. Opera began walking towards the thing, picking it up with his paws and dragging it back over. Nothing to it. Wow, you two are bonding great. It's like you're sharing the same mindset. They did. They both wanted to get this over with as quickly as possible. Now then, I believe it's Clara's turn. He turned, Falfel saying something before Clara left and ran away. I don't think that's how it works. Clara soon came back with a meat bun, handing it to the familiar, which patted the girl's head. I'm really concerned with this relationship. Same. A tamed Clara is something I don't think the world can handle. Not how they'd word it, but sure. Isn't this form a little uncomfortable for you? You're one of the strongest demons I know, and being the size of my forearm doesn't look like a picnic. It has its advantages at times. I can practically fall asleep anywhere now and no one can complain about it. Izuku looked at Opera skeptical. Are you sure you're not in any way related to an actual cat? That actually was a good question. Demon ancestry wasn't really a big topic around here, something they attributed to the ranking system. No one would care about who you're related to. It was either rank up or be forgotten. It was a bit depressing when he thought about it. Maybe, but since we're on the topic about being comfortable, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. Izuku nodded, letting them continue. You've lived here for a while, and have gone above and beyond to live among your peers. Your mother is quite safe at the mansion, but how are you adjusting? Izuku froze for a second. I know it might sound a bit strange, but I'm actually used to everything now. Sure, I'm a little scared of the others, but that's mostly out of identity discovery at this point. Hell with demons is honestly better than my life with humans on Earth. Once again, that was more depressing when they thought about it. Put it all on paper, and one wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the human world and the netherworld from how Izuku described it. So, I take it you have no longing to return to the human world? Izuku paused again, taking a good look around him. Jazz was hiding in the corner, eyes darting back and forth. Lyde was playing games with his monkey. Kamui was fawning over Elizabetta and her floral papillon. Clara was rolling over for Falfel while Asmodeus and Sabnock were throwing daggers at one another. Yeah, my life here is really great. I have people here I care for, and those that care for me. Opera smiled, glad their duty could be fulfilled. Hey, you might need to step in. The fight needs to be stopped. He pointed to the Gorgon hissing at the Kelpie, which neighed in return. Understood, sir, Opera spoke, rolling up non-existent sleeves and ready to knock sense into these hooligans. Caligo tapped his finger against the desk, staring daggers at the man-child in front of him. He let the silence hang out, waiting for the other to try and speak first. How's it? Silence, he interrupted the newbie. Just one look at him made him mentally slap himself. How was it that most of the annoying people in his life were smiling green-haired idiots? It was like a virus trying to spread. He swore if he ever met a green-haired smiler, he liked it would be a day to celebrate and memorialize forever. Now tell me, what's the most important lesson of dealing with familiars? Well, sir, it's to build trust and bond. Wrong, Caligo threw him across the room after grabbing a hold of his face. Familiars aren't toys to be played with, they aren't pets to feed and gallop on. They're magical beasts, wild animals that are barely held back by a contract, he growled at the man. But they can't hurt the owner due to the contract, oh. The annoying man screamed as his face was squeezed like a balloon. That doesn't stop them from trying to maim or kill anyone else. You're also assuming that the summoner doesn't wish to let them run rampant. So naive. How this man ever became a teacher here, he'll never know. Thus, the first rule of having a familiar is to fear it. That is the only rule it understands. It was fortunate that one single student already learned that lesson long before you. It practically killed him on the inside knowing that said student was Midoriya. The newbie, Robin something, looked down at the ground. Seriously, who hired this moron? Couldn't have been Dalton, which meant the only one high enough to hire him, of course. Sullivan. You spoke my MSTR's name. Caligo suddenly felt the need to jump out the window and fall down the deepest, darkest cliff he could find and hide there for 10 years. Hello again, Kohai. I see you've enjoyed today's familiar training. What the hell are you doing here? Again, he shouted, preparing to use the pen as a makeshift javelin. It likely wouldn't scratch the BSTRD, but it would sure as hell distract him for a real attack. I'm a familiar, I was summoned, the cat explained, staring with impish delight in their eyes, moments away from pouncing on prey. The class is over, you should have been sent back to that accursed castle, Caligo growled in frustration. Yes, but then I couldn't have fun with my Kohai now, could I? The insane BSTRD carried on, not even trying to give an excuse, their eyes now narrowing. I take it you've been enjoying teaching my young MSTR so far. Believe me, if I could, I would throw you two and Sullivan down to the deepest depths of hell and personally spend 1,000 years making sure you don't escape if it meant I could go one day without thinking about any of you. If you made sure we didn't escape every day, wouldn't that mean you'll think of us? Opera responded in a teasing way that made the headache grow even more. I feel I'm missing context here. You have a grudge with a familiar? Asked the newbie. No, we're just really old friends catching up with one another. the red-haired devil falsely clarified. What's a friend? Nothing important, especially when it's not true. It was strong enough knowing Midoriya was causing so much trouble expanding his social circle. The last thing he needed was this lunatic spreading more misinformation about him like in his years as a student. Awa, but remember all the fun we used to have? Such as that time we had to sneak into the succubus batler and made you, the demon never got to finish his sentence, Cerberus pouncing on the BSTRD. And here I thought I would consider MSTR Izuku's advice and ask Sullivan to give you a raise. Guess you aren't as good a teacher as he thinks. Wait, what? You were going to? I can see when I'm not wanted. I'd best be on my way now. They fled out a window, most likely to cause some poor demon out there another headache, which he would be all for if it wasn't for that last tidbit of information. Wow, seems like a fun guy. How were you involved with a familiar? Was it a past summon? Did you have fun? Did you guys fight over a girl or some? Curse you opera, Caligo shouted to the heavens. Though considering where he lived, it was doubtful anyone above would be willing to grant him mercy. Kariwo coughed some more, cleaning off soot from his clothes. Seems the last invention went awry, not enough of a protective current. Oh well, it wouldn't hold him back too much. He had time to finish his final project before the Batler Festival, at least he hoped he did. Maybe he could borrow some parts from the new magic Batler. They were nice enough as long as you offered them something. Sure, his barriers weren't that impressive, but it was worth a try. He could withstand almost anything. Surely that was valuable in some way? He mentally laughed. Not only did he have little magic to offer, his rank was laughable despite being a third year. A measly bet too when most in the same grade were either one rank higher or above. Who'd want someone as useless as that? The burnt metal finally gave out, falling down on an obviously silent room. So empty despite the amazing things he had in there. No little Kohai interested in working with objects when their own magic could do almost anything. Made one wonder what's the point if you're strong. He's heard some amazing stories about the recent first years, thrill seekers filled to the brim with magic. He was a bit envious, even if they were high in magical power. Not many others would attempt half the stunts these guys pulled. Fighting teachers, taming demons, rocket launchers. Truly astounding work if he says so himself. Those were the kind of demons that would get remembered, the kind that students learned about years in the future when they were long gone and dead. Not like him, the sickly low magic third year. Kiriwo looked down at the parchment on his desk, next to the schematics. If he had no new members join up by the end of the trial PRD, he would lose the rights to the clubroom. All the strong work down the drain, it made his heart squeeze. If he just had enough time, just had enough help, he'd be so much closer to bridging the gap between demons like him and everyone else. And finally, maybe his true ambition could be realized. His bro would be so proud too. It would be incredible to see the world he makes. Too bad there was no one insane enough to join a group for the powerless. Haruno sat with the girls, waiting it out as everyone left quickly. Sure, there was the risk of getting caught soon during the rookie hunt, but the gals found opportunity when it presented itself. The group insane enough that would stand tall even during the chaos soon to come, with the hotties in tow. Well, hotties plus one little lowly maniac, but that should hardly be a problem. Are they here? Are they here? Azuki squealed with excitement, almost making a scene if the room wasn't so empty. They almost never not have a crowd around them? Are you sure they're here? Of course I'm sure. Asmodeus is a proud guy with the attitude to match, and won't move an inch for the sake of something like this. Midoriya is a danger junkie, and will probably love the threat itself. And Valak, Kanatsu fell silent, not needing to say anything else. Valak was Valak. Come on girls, they should be aha. Perfect, they're eating lunch all alone, she shouted, peeking her head into the cafeteria with the others. Sure enough, the smoking hot representative and his thrill-seeking cutie of a rival showed up, accompanied by the equally cute little gal known as Insanity Incarnate. What are they saying? Azuki pushed herself further in, trying to get closer without being noticed. Midoriya finally ranked up after beating Asmodeus. There has to be some juicy tension going on between them. Now that was a plus. A cute Aleph-1 was one thing, but a cute Bet-2 to boot. Throw in the bonus of being the chair demon's grandchild, and you've got yourself a recipe for a perfect husband. All right, despite my love of Asmodeus, I'm willing to settle for Midoriya. Haruno told the others. We'll make a 3-play plan. The loser distracts Velak. Hey, no fair. I found Midoriya hot long before you guys did. I called dibs on him, Izuku defended. Alright, then you two bet on him. He's not really buff enough for me, Kanatsu muttered, keeping her eyes on their original prize. If that's the case, then you better step on it. Haruno casually slipped into the cafeteria as they argued, and quickly walked towards them once they realized she made her move. So anyways, maybe you should carry something to store the fire at a later date, or something flammable that can ignite to reserve mana. Midoriya spoke to Asmodeus, from what they could hear. He had that little notebook he always seemed to carry around. Hey, grades were a way to rank up too. It didn't hurt to have someone smart wrapped around your finger. Maybe, but that would just be big and bulky personally. I'd rather wait it out and save that kind of stuff for a long-suited mission rather than casual school days. Asmodeus returned, wanting to keep his cool figure and pretty looks. Alright, now was the time to make a move. Hey there, cute stew hey. She was beginning her hook, using everything she'd learned from her Asducton elective, only for her two companions to run up to her back and crash into her, and slamming Midoriya's face into the table. Izuku! Izuku-kins! The honor student's inner circle cried out in panic. That was a more casual recognition from Asmodeus than before. Guess he didn't hold a grudge about the exam. The boy in question simply raised his head, whipping off bludgeoned kiltados. Well, that was a waste of food, he muttered, turning to the group of girls before his face turned into a red light. Hey there, you girls are all right? Didn't get hurt in any way? Wow, he really didn't ask for any compensation for anything. And here she thought that the Inko girl was embellishing her admiration of him. It actually was pretty cute to see up close. No, I should be asking you that. She started, having a minor plan in motion. Let me take a look. She grabbed the boy's cheek in a fake attempt to look him over. What are you? He began to stutter. Ooh, already going for FR-ply. He really was a thrill seeker. Has anyone ever told you how cute your freckles are? She turned his head a little and gave them a closer look. Perfectly symmetrical. Like someone painted little diamonds on your face. The boy had steam coming out of ears as he trembled. Oh, the excitement was clearly visible, and what was that revving sound? Valak, drop the saw. She turned and saw it was true. Asmodeus was indeed trying to stop her from revving up a chainsaw that wasn't there before. Stay away from Izuku-kins, you BLDSCK harpies, she screamed in rage, Azuki backing up in legitimate fear from being the closest one. Couldn't blame her in all honesty, except she could. How the hell was that distracting her? Clara, don't stab them, Midoriya shouted, trying to pacify the girl. They were just being nice to me, that's all. No, they're here to steal you away just like Lady Red Hair. Wait, who? Who was trying to make a move on him before them? No, that's not it at all. We were just, Haruno shouted, trying to be the brains of this situation, like she always was. Asking for your opinion on battlers, which one do you guys plan on joining? The cute boy blinked. What's a battler? He asked. All right, points detracted for dumbass questions. Seriously, was he raised in the boonies? Asmodeus didn't look disappointed so much as resigned. Apologies for Velak, and don't think less of Izuku for his curiosity. Asmodeus intervened with that strong aura that oozed off of him. He's been sheltered for most of his life, and has been working tirelessly to catch up with everyone else. Ooh, the innocent hot boy. Azuki whispered to Kanatsu, making sure only the three of them could hear her. Maybe I could teach him a few things in private? Oh, sounds like a fun time. Anyway, battlers are a group of demons with interest that collect into a small organization. They can involve common sports such as high-speed flying and execution cannonball, the development of magic and games, or even artistic things such as dancing and music. They're also essential for everyone. Asmodeus explained in his perfect way. Izuku seemed to have a visible twitch at that. So clubs, this is somehow getting less fascinating and more annoying. How the hell are they so similar and yet so drastically different? He muttered to himself. Clubs? Azuki wondered, getting closer to him. Sorry, my mind tends to ramble on its own. I had something similar back at my old home. Clubs are essentially the same concept, except they weren't so focused on magic or stuff like that. and they were made just for fun. Oh, so how violent were your rookie hunts? Haruno pitched in, looking with interest as she got closer, but backed off with the hiss of the Valak. The rookie hunts? He asked. Looks like she'd have to explain some more if they had different names. You know, the 66 minutes that said club members can forcibly recruit freshmen into their club against the will of others. She asked him. The boy gave his excited tremble with a grin. Wow, maybe Azuki was onto something about this bad boy talk. Why does everything here have to involve deadly stakes? The honor student asked out loud before a loud trembling could be felt, followed by an eerie alarm. Wait, why is the cafeteria empty right now? It's the most obvious place to find freshmen. But with Asmodeus here we won't have to worry too badly about enemies, right? Konatsu asked with a lean onto him. The man backed away with disgust. Well, of course, my fire magic will simply burn them to dust. He gave an evil smirk. So here's a thought. What if they wanted to recruit the best people badly enough to get fire-resistant clothes and magic seals? Midoriya asked, pointing out the window at a group that spotted them. But it was fine. Asmodeus would likely get out of this flawlessly. She turned and saw him pale as her hopes dropped. Then I suggest only one course of action, run. Crumble. Crumble. Crash. Crunch. Ah, my leg, they got my leg. Just cut it off. It's not worth the paperwork those guys will make you do. Punch. Kick. Only a true battler is worthy of containing the future Demon King. Come at me, you BSTRD. Ladies, please let me join your battler. I promise to love all of you. Ah, pervert, kill it with fire. Clink. How the hell are you stealing while running for your life? It's called being badass, look it up. You BSTRD want to play? Fine, let's play. Rata. Since when does she make machine guns? Please tell me those aren't real bullets. They're worse, they're olive oil. Izuku, I'm sorry for being such a dichi. It's fine, just grab my hand. No, go without me, save yourself. I won't leave you behind, smash. Twack. Oh, nice job, kid, that punch was barely worth your rep. Libera. Roar. Ah. Bam bam. Leave me alone, dancers are the only group I'll join. Her fox wants to eat me. Aiko. Crack. It's okay, Gakko, I got his spine. How? Hello, can I interest you with the word of our Lord and Savior? Religion is bullshit kick. Why am I in the middle of this? I'm a teacher. Izuku Kins, I'm out of ammo. Make a bomb to the wall, we'll cut through the storage room. Gorgon, give us cover. Boom. Ah, terrorists, every demon for themselves. The Six Fingers have arrived. Did I blow my cover already? Who the hell said that? Crumble. No time, the Cloud Kid is gonna cave us in. Wait, I need to save my progress. Is your life worth less than a game? Yes, because I have continues in games. Stomp. Enough. The student council president. Oh yeah, I almost forgot Amory-san was in charge of the student council. Stay away, Lady Red Hair. I have a bazooka, and I'm not afraid to use it. Do you think she'll let me touch her melons if I ask to join? Johnny, do the thing. Crack. Thank you. Anytime, MDM. Gomen was taught to strive to any goal with unlimited passion, and now he knew how tired Paisro felt on a daily basis. Every bone ached from all the running that just occurred, and how many times he needed to, as the common man said, cut a beach in their place, or something along that nature. Okay, I know this is a common thing that everyone here is apparently taught about, and everyone is going to look at me funny because of all the rumors flying around, but this school is way too dangerous, Midoriya yelled to the sky. Everyone did look at the fellow quite curiously, but no one was inclined to disagree with him. Actually, I can empathize with you on that one. Jazz muttered, holding only 50 yen worth of jewels rather than his everyday 100. Even Clara looks exhausted. Everyone turned and saw the last breathe on her knees. Not tired, must play, for fun, she collapsed into unconsciousness. I thought I would rejoice in seeing her taste her own medicine, but it's honestly depressing to see it in action. Asmodeus muttered, breathe in exhaustion. For the love of Devi, I barely remember anything. I think I stabbed a man. Everyone turned to Crosel, but let it be. Wasn't that unnatural? And the situation was too dire. And he most assuredly cut someone. Silence is what I would say if you weren't so quiet already. Kaligo spoke as he entered. Their sensei looked quite pleased with their drained state, almost revealing in the aura of despair that had plagued them. Now then, for the next 3 days there will be a trial PRD. You're allowed to look and join battlers without the risk of forcible recruitment. It took a lot of self-DSPLN to not shriek with joy. He was on the verge of planning a mass slaughtering if the time came. Maybe Midoriya wasn't the crazy one in class after all. Sir, do we have to join? Lied complained. No whining, the battlers are vital to demons. They help negotiations with upperclassmen, along with the opportunity to rank up. In that sentence Midoriya performed a miracle and stood on his own 2 feet. Alright guys, let's give it our all, because I'm sure that it'd only be a small mountain in comparison given how exhausted we are. And the boy fell down once again. The boy had spirit, he would give him that. PP plus U ultra. Seems that young Midoriya has finally reached his limit. Schneider commented, being ever the astute scholar. He lasted longer than I calculated. A warriors will reaching the end of a long journey. Gomen agreed with the lion student. No life can walk its road for eternity. Guys, I'm not in the mood for cryptic text finding. I just want the idle mode on. Lyde muttered from his seat, although it was just replaced with the boy resting on his tail. So uncouth. After a few hours, the class finally recovered enough energy to walk down the halls. It was the most draining experience in his life, and he's lived in literal hell for months now. How was this the breaking point? Mom's going to freak when she learns about this. He expected to see Grandpa getting the cold shoulder later. Inko Midoriya was a cruel woman when she wanted to be. Yes, I've experienced it firsthand. As idly muttered as he and Clara followed him down the halls. Now that over half the student body wasn't attempting to maim and kidnap first years, the battlers didn't seem half bad. They were definitely pushy and applied a bit of peer pressure, but all in all, it almost seemed normal. Alright, we should look for something that fits us and helps us grow, but can also allow all 3 of us to hang out. What are you guys thinking of? He asked his friends. I planned on the painting battler. I admire their sense of beauty. Made sense and fit him. He was sure that Fire could make some great art with some experience added to the mix. The succubus battler. Az and him stared at Clara with baffled looks. What? It worked great last time. He assumed she only joined because she thought Amory and him were seeing each other and tried to cut in, not understanding the context of what she was doing. They were all friends, why try to join it again? By what definition? Az bonked her on the head. That path is not made for someone like you. Says you. Izuku-kin is hooked all over me, Clara yelled for the whole school to hear. He can't take his eyes off of me. Last I saw he's busy looking at flyers. Az deadpanned. Indeed he was, staring at a large collage of them on a pinboard. Now let's see, there's too many options. We need something smart, artsy, and fun at the same time. Izuku muttered. We could try the botany battler, it seems calm enough and we can get creative with it. And I can always learn how to control plant magic better. Though maybe we could join a cooking battler. My mom could always use more recipes to try out. Yo, Midoriya, muttering again? Izuku was taken out of his thought process, turning to see Lyde, Jazz, and Kamui. Yeah, trying to get some ideas on a choice for battler. What about you guys? Yeah, it's the gaming battler for me. I need to learn how to level real fast. It's the quickest way to learn important life skills, you know? Lyde explained his choice. You just want to play games all day, Asmodeus scrutinized. Magic development battler for me. I like the idea of just creating the new stuff. Gives me an edge over others. Jazz spoke with a grin. You're in it for the money, aren't you? Izuku deadpanned. I am going to join the women's studies battler, Kamui shouted. That doesn't exist, everyone barring Clara shouted. That just means there's an open market to be explored, Kamui retorted. Jesus, there couldn't be anyone more shameless than right, he almost forgot Earth existed for a second. You're a first-year student. Even if you had the power to create your own battler, you'd need to run it by the student council first. And I hardly doubt Amory Azazel would approve of such a crude and crash operation. Amory-san. He almost forgot about the student council's offer. She came up to him after the rookie hunt and not so subtly announced her offer to him to everyone around them. It was surprising, but it made sense. She wanted to keep him close. There'd be no escaping any time she wanted to read together. However, he was far too nervous to take it up. He'd likely crack on day one. And he'd probably get separated from Az and Clara with the duties and responsibilities that came with it. As Izuku was caught up in these thoughts, he noticed a tugging on his hands. "You notice something, Clara?" he asked without looking. "Yeah, the fuzz rules batler looks fun," she shouted from too far away. Noticing this, he turned and saw that his hand was being pulled. Guys, something's going on," he shouted, pulling back, although the tugging was getting worse. "Just try to grab something embedded into the ground," Az shouted. Izuku responded by grabbing onto a watering fountain. The pulling increased to the point said fountain was ripped out of the ground, after which he was dragged screaming. Why does this always happen during calm moments? "Come on, Gakko, you have to help me look for him." Aiko grabbed her friend's hand. Izuku explained to her the concept of friendship, and she gratefully passed it along to Gakko, who gladly accepted. "We need to find out which batler he's joining." "Aiko, first of all, it's your crush. You're the one that needs to find him." Gakko rolled her eyes. "Second, you don't need to. Isn't joining the school newspaper enough for now? You've already taken enough photos of his ranking exam for yourself." "Well, yeah, but you can never have too many pictures of such a cute face," she got defensive easily. "And it's one thing to track his every move, but this is the perfect opportunity to finally be in the same area as him for an extended amount of time." "You know you say that, but here's how it's going to play out." Gakko started. You hear something loud. A familiar screaming rang out. You go to look for it. They indeed walked to it. It ends up being Izuku. Izuku was flying at them. You try to say something but fail. He was flying too fast to say anything. Then he leaves and you're left starstruck. "So you shouldn't bother, Aiko," the dragon girl shouted. Made sense. A stray wire from the fountain snagged her shirt as she was sent flying with Izuku. She was flying with Izuku, a dream come true. "Izuku, you're actually here." "Sorry, so sorry Aiko. I can't control where I'm going." Even in the midst of being dragged to the depths of nowhere, he still found the time to apologize to her. Maybe the Asducton elective wasn't a huge waste of time after all. This stupid ring is acting up again. Why now of all times? Yeah, it was pretty terrifying, but her savior got into situations like this all the time, so it wasn't like she was in any real danger, not even from the giant walking sack that they were about to crash into. "Look out!" Izuku screamed one last time, before knocking head first into it, sending dozens of little knickknacks into the air. Both of them stumbled to the ground, trying to fumble their way up to stability. "So sorry Aiko. Didn't mean for you to get dragged into my mess." "Well again. Don't worry about it. It's all fine. It's perfectly fine." She started stuttering in a similar manner to him. Was she a danger junkie too now? Would she end up chasing whatever dangerous obstacle that stood in her way? Well, she already chased after Izuku, so it wasn't like she was far off from that to begin with. At least they now had more in common. "So, you're bet too now, huh? We're in the same rank." "Yeah, in all honesty, it still doesn't feel completely real for me. I've never accomplished something for myself growing up." With how amazing he was, she figured he was all about competition and had his own trophy case of achievements. "But enough about me, how have you been doing?" He has been thinking about her. "Oh, nothing more than the usual, hanging with my friend, surviving getting run over by upperclassmen, all the normal stuff. Oh, and I've also joined the school newspaper. I'm their official photographer." She held out her camera, before showing him all her pictures. "Essentially, I just go around looking for the most eye-catching thing I can find, and they write articles about it." "That's amazing Aiko, these look." He tilted his head curiously like a little puppy. "Ooh, Aiko, most of these are of me." "Yeah, I did say the most eye-catching thing I can find." She responded like it was common knowledge, which was from her perspective. "You're kind of the biggest news around these parts, Mr. Honor Student. I can't help if you're naturally the star of every event." She gave a wink and a pose she learned, and he blushed. All the studying she put in was finally paying off. I'm not trying to. I'm really just trying to get by without dying, really. He scratched the back of his head. Though, with my recent ranking, I'm actually closer to my goal than I ever was before. So, I'd like to thank you. Huh? Thank me for what? The fight at the beginning of the year, he muttered to her. You really shouldn't have been in the way at all, but when you were in danger, my body couldn't help but move to get you to safety. Thinking back on it, it's the first time I ever got the chance to act like a hero, as weird as it may sound. He shook again. Sorry, I probably don't make any sense to you at all, huh? Chance to act like a hero? To her, he already was one. Incredible and amazing, and he just liked saving people. No problem, Izuku. She smiled at him and the bleeding demon behind him. Wait. Ooh, Izuku, she pointed behind him. SHT, I completely forgot about who I crashed into. He turned to the dizzy demon, with light blue hair almost bordering on green, and two black horns that differed in size. He wore glasses as bits of BLD spilled from his mouth. Sorry, I didn't hurt you too badly, right? Oh, CRP, you're probably bleeding internally now. I'm not sure I can treat that with my healing BLD, but maybe. Wait, he has what? Oh, no problem. This wasn't caused by you. It's natural. The upperclassman, from what she could tell, responded with a weak voice before coughing up more BLD. That doesn't look like it should be, although it's giving me the oddest sense of déjà vu. Maybe in another life, you would have dealt with someone constantly coughing up BLD because he had his entire stomach pulled out by a dark overlord. Inko asked, making the two look at her weirdly. I have no idea why I said that. They were brought out of it by some more students bumping into the upperclassmen. Hey, watch where you're going. Dude, that's an upperclassman. See the stripes? Oh, SHT, really? Wait a second, he's only a bet too. Oh, don't scare us like that, BSTRD. They growled, walking away while stomping on some items. That was rude. They shouldn't be doing that regardless of rank or seniority. Izuku sent the first years a scowl before helping the upperclassman pick up his items. Again, sorry for the inconvenience. Still so considerate. No problem, it was my fault for getting in the way. No, seriously, I was the one flying at you. They went back and forth for a bit, Inko blinking at how similar they were. If she didn't have Izuku's face permanently etched into her brain, she probably wouldn't be able to tell them apart. My ring went crazy out of nowhere. I really gotta start looking into it more. He showed off the ring to him. Hey, that's the Envy Stealer ring, isn't it? The upperclassman looked curious with a small smile. Now it makes sense. My necklace is made out of the same material. It probably got attached to it like a magnet. Oh, then I guess it's both our faults then. They both let out some laughter, Izuku's making Inko's heart flutter. So I'm guessing that's a magical item as well, Izuku continued. Why, yes. It's nothing as fancy as yours, but it has a few little tricks of its own. He showed off the little purple ornament it carried. I don't have a lot of magic in me, so this support item helps me stockpile mana when I need it. Izuku's eyes lit up with a curious blaze as he stared at the object around the upperclassman's neck. Support items, I'd love to work with something like that. Something that can help people grow stronger by covering weaknesses or enhancing strength. The upperclassman gained a curious gaze at Izuku. Is that so? Take this. The guy reaches into his pocket, pulling out a flyer. The magical apparatus batler, you should check it out. He smiled. Thanks, I'll be sure to stop by later. He really was funny when he was lost in that cute head of his. So, magical apparatus, that's what you want to join? You're already so powerful, I didn't think you'd be interested in something like this. Inko pointed out. I like messing with magic, he admitted. Something like this that can help others for the better, maybe even help them not be at the bottom of the food chain for the rest of their lives. No need to settle for less than what they can be. He spoke passionately, and the older student leaned his head a little in curiosity. But I want to be fair, so I'll give a quick tour around to see the other battlers just in case. But yours is definitely at the top of the list. Izuku stopped. I'm sorry, I never got your name. No, it's my fault, I never introduced myself. Seriously, they long-lost cousins? Kuriwo Amy. Hello, I'm Izuku. Izuku-kin's two voices shouted his answer for him as heads of pink and green hair ambushed him, the shorter of the two climbing on his back while the other stood close by in worry. The upperclassmen suddenly gained a teasing smile with a mischievous look in their eye. I understand. I'll wait and hope for your arrival, Izuku-kins, Amy said as he left a bit more chipperly than she expected him to be. Well, Izuku was amazing, so having him plus Asmodeus and Valak in his batler would probably garner a little more respect from others. I feel that's going to be a thing with him? Izuku sighed. Don't worry guys, I'm fine. You called being dragged off by an invisible force and sent flying away at Mach speed fine? Asmodeus asked skeptically. Compared to the rookie hunt, it wasn't anything that crazy. Izuku spoke, which Asmodeus only gave a sigh and reluctant nod to. Wow, Asmodeus must be the sane one in the group if he worries all the time like this. Well, at least you're not injured, or caused any injuries to others. It's going to be a long while before you lose that danger junkie title. He turned to Inko, who backed away a little at his attention to her. You look familiar. Oh, Asmodeus, this is Inko, the girl you almost He shook hesitantly looking back at her. You know, on the first day. His eyes widened. I see. I apologize for my actions that day. He spoke to her with a blank look on his face. It was meant to stay between me and Izuku. I overstepped and almost killed you. I mean, compared to what everyone just went through, your almost manslaughter is a bit on the small side of things. She laughed hollowly, still afraid of the representative. It's all right. Any friend of Izuku is a friend of mine, I hope. Please be careful with the term. The misfits still have the wrong understanding out of spite. Asmodeus mentioned with a look on his face. Wonder what the story was there. Speaking of, I don't think you've ever met Clara in person before. Hey Clara, come here and... Izuku looked all around. Where is Clara? Hey, mystery string, Valak shouted out, holding and pulling on a white piece of string which was caught on the fountain. Wait, Clara, don't! She could hear Izuku scream. However, her brain made the connection too late as a large tearing sound was heard. The next thing she knew, Izuku fell to the ground with a large thud. Ah, well, on the plus side, she could now pass out at the same time as Izuku, from shame most assuredly. Izuku sighed in content as he looked at the flowers. They were so pretty, it was incredible to watch them bloom in action. There are amazing stolas sensei. Yes, nature is one of the greatest sights you'll ever see. Mew, Stolas spoke, petting one of them. Just give them love and nutrition, and they'll return the favor tenfold, she explained. Truly, the gentle grace of life presenting itself to us like this would suit us best. As said, looking down onto a pink flower he was watering. What do you think of this batler, Clara? Izuku asked. They're fun rides, yay, she shouted from her spot. That was nice. Wait, what rides? It feels so warm and gooey. He slowly turned and saw her being devoured by a massive plant. Oh my, looks like we almost forgot feeding time, Mew. Stola's sensei spoke offhandedly. Okay, maybe he should invest in something less terrifying. After getting her out of course. Do you have any shears? Don't worry, Izuku-kins, I can get out of any situation, Clara yelled as she was swallowed whole by the plants. They all froze once they heard revving sounds from within it. Clara, don't use the chainsaw. The plants, Stola's sensei screamed in horror, this time for the wrong object in question. And here he thought Stola's sensei was one of the more reasonable teachers. Schneider Alloser was internally drooling at the display of wisdom before him. Books upon books as large as the ocean itself. It was the perfect sanctum from the calamity that transpired across this school, a little piece of heaven for a scholar in hell. Wow, this might actually be the most quiet room in the school. I didn't think it was possible. Alice Asmodeus whispered through the hallowed halls as he, with izukumidoriya and Clara Valak, inspected. Ah, nice to know even the most chaotic bunch of their class could appreciate the serenity a library could offer. Yes, here with the library battler we seek absolute peace in our path to knowledge. The yet unknown member explained as she gave the misfit class the tour. All of these books are to be kept in order, researched, and learn about wonderful stories. And you guys really research everything here? Izukumidoriya was giddy in his tone. Ah, yes, the green lad had a soft spot for researching bloodlines. Maybe the two of them could discuss potential theories together one of these days. Of course, if it's in a book, it's in here. She smiled. Even if you don't want to read all the time, the main duties are simply making sure books are in order and checking in new ones, so a lot of members just lounge and relax. She explained to them. What a waste. Why sit when you can learn? It may not be the most artistic or eventful battler out there, but there are benefits to just reading a book without worry. After everything we've been through, I think we all deserve a break. Alice Asmodeus expressed his thoughts. Even Valak seems to be enjoying this mess. Looking, Schneider Alicer could see the girl in question devouring a book. Well, at the very least it would contribute to his theory on idiotism. How quaint. Yeah, there seems to be something for all of us here, and I highly doubt something dangerous could ever happen with books. Izukumidoriya trailed on, before an example of what some demons call Murphy's Law came into effect. There was a loud boom in another room, students screaming as one man stumbled with a zombified look on his face. Diamenate freshman, I said 10 feet away from new books. We don't know if they're cursed or not. An upperclassman screamed, the girl giving them the tour quickly shutting the curtains with an innocent smile. Since when do books explode? Alice Asmodeus shielded the duo of green-haired students. Is there anything that's considered safe here? Nothing is safe, peace is a lie, Izukumidoriya screamed in near hysterics. Given his track record, it was a given he would eventually snap. That rookie hunt just brought the tipping point closer. We're all just pawns to the madness. Schneider laughed, even as Izukumidoriya and his court of friends rushed away, walking to the direction of the curtain. Forbidden books. Color him interested. Lyde watched the boy calm down, sitting on a pillow as they played a racing game. Thanks, I needed this Lade-san. Izuku said honestly, looking a lot more still than a few minutes ago. It was weird seeing this guy not shake with excitement all the time. Guess living life on the brink would tire anyone out eventually. No problem, dude, just glad I have someone to play with for once. It gets boring always going with single-player mode. He could only have his single personal device during school hours, and the less said about being home with his sister at any time, the better. Asmodeus was looking around the room. While a nice place to finally get a break, I admit it's a bit too, what's the word, media-based and childish for me. He spoke with the brutal honesty of a sledgehammer. It's not for everyone. What matters is that it's a place to have fun and be free, just whatever you want to do. Lyde smirked. Then again, the great and powerful Asmodeus prefers things prim and proper. Now does he? He spoke with an over-the-top noble accent, making the man twitch almost as bad as Kaligo-sensei. Fun times. How about we play darts? Clara shouted, grabbing said dart and throwing it straight through the very expensive TV, shattering the thing in question. Silence overtook the battler. Only the sounds of the glass falling to the floor could be heard. Does that mean I won? Clara asked in her insensitively innocent way. Yes, now how about I suggest a game of tag? Spoke the battler president. You all get a 5-second head start in terms of fairness, before we hunt you down and skin you alive. Lyde checked it out. It did seem quite fair given their track record for survival. Sounds like fun, Clara shouted as Izuku dragged her and Asmodeus out as quickly as possible. Guess Danger finds that guy no matter where he goes. Jazz was loving this little new gang he had going on. The president just wanted to research magic, the other just wanted to get fame, and that left him with a pretty hefty share of fortune he could get off of this, especially if sold to the right people at the right place. So he wouldn't particularly mind either way if the crazy kid wanted to join or not. If they did, he might even get some little siblings to look after, unlike the BSTRD of his older brother. Okay, so what if everything we've tried so far turned out to be a bust for multiple reasons? So what if we're banned from the gamer battler and everything else so far has tried to kill us? That doesn't mean every battler out there is insane in some form or another, right? Izuku tried to console his little friend squad, looking quite dejected. Why am I even asking? That basically makes it inevitable. Relax guys, I doubt even you three could make this situation dangerous. Jazz used some of that brotherly comfort he's been working on for a while. He thought he'd be doing something like this to Lyde or Paisro first, but even he didn't like seeing a sad Izuku, as crazy as he was. Then his president ran up to Asmodeus, grabbing his hands with a bright and deranged smile. You're Alice Asmodeus, right? Can you show me your fire? Please, please show me it, he begged the student rep. What? No, I don't use it unless necessary, the pink-haired student retorted, attempting to pull away. Please, please, it would be amazing to study all the multiple forms of heat, energy, wavelength, mana infusion into natural capabilities, compression systems I've been hearing about. The man went on and on, almost like, I refuse to have 2 izukus in my life, Asmodeus shouted, setting his president on fire. And as such, Jazz felt an immediate sense of internal fear. His source of money was being immolated. All right, back it up. Clearly there's a conflict here. Jazz got between them, barely dodging incoming attacks. Asmodeus, was that really necessary? But... Asmodeus looked to Izuku, who looked to Jazz in agreement. Ugh, being corrected by the Misfits' resident thief. I've truly lost all dignity. Izuku was already grabbing the fire extinguisher, looking far too calm for the situation at hand. Look guys, we just need to act fast and put him out. The moment he finished, the president raised his hand to stop him. Can't you see? This is so incredible. All the data I can collect on this, just for the price of skin, I need more, he shouted and tried to lunge at Asmodeus. Weird, usually they try to attack Clara. Izuku idly muttered, a frustrated look on his face as they ran. Oh well, more money for him in the end. Kamui had a dream. Some would call him deranged, others delusional. But he knew in his heart that he was on the right path. Women are the most appealing thing. They need to be learned about in all respects. What they like, what they dislike, what makes their assets grow. Every day more and more questions are asked by the common man, threatening to go unanswered. No more, he says, no more. Today would mark a day in which those who questioned as he did would seek refuge and help from their fellow man. Today would mark the day where someone off the street would accept and join his great women's studies batler. Why did we even come here? The pretty boy representative came by with his pack. He's bribing people with free cookies. The cute boy honor student shrugged, taking one and walking away without a flyer. The jerk. Cookies for days. The legal lowly walked by as she took the rest. She could take them, the lovely lady. At least consider it, honor student. I know you're trying to make a HRM. Where did that even come from? The boy shouted, blushing red. I can barely talk to women as it is. There's no way I could handle more than one. The lying jackass. He talked with every woman. The legal lowly, the blonde nice girl, the red-headed tsundere. He's practically collecting the entire package. Nonsense. The only way that would be untrue is if you're trying to get a male HRM, Kamui shouted. The boy blinked on that, as nearby students muttered about either him or Asmodeus being the bottom. I won't let you have him, as I'll beat you like I did Lady Red Hair. The lovely Lady Valak passionately spoke, though it was ignored as the representative began to lunge at him. I'll fry you like the chicken you are. And that's how his dreams were crushed before they ever had the chance to blossom. The world could be so unkind to great innovators such as him. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and authors 616 MCU and Hazzard Overflow on FANFICTIONnet and AO3. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.